your time in the open world before you move on to the next mission. Once you're in a mission line, it's typically a while before you're able to return to the open world and collect Spartan cores to upgrade your equipment. After you complete the mission titled The Sequence, you will not be able to return to Zeta Halo until after you complete the campaign. And there's no in-game warning about this, so make sure you've done everything you want to do before you get to that point. And finally, your equipment will often be the difference between life or death. Make sure you remember how to quickly navigate to each one so you'll be able to utilize them when the situation calls for it. If you're being sniped by jackals and you don't know from where, toss down a quick shield so you can safely search. If you're getting attacked by cloaked elites, make sure you're able to quickly toss down a threat sensor so it doesn't catch you off guard. And of course, you should always be ready to swap to the grapple shot to make use of its many functions, either as a quick getaway, a way to hijack vehicles from a distance, a weapon switcher, an explosive picker-upper, etc. And there you have it, 12 tips for Halo Infinite's campaign. Let us know some of your own hot tips in the comments, and while I've got you here, why not check out our aforementioned grapple shot tips video, along with our video showing you how to find all of the skulls in the campaign. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
Hi, I'm Jeff Eleanor, Game Director at Warner Bros. Games Montreal, and today I'm really excited to share with you gameplay footage featuring Nightwing and Red Hood from our upcoming game, Gotham Knights. We're joining Nightwing, also known as Dick Grayson, midway through the game story as he patrols our city. All of the Knights can unlock heroic ways of getting around the city. For Nightwing, it's his glider, the Flying Trapeze. The Regulators gang are engaged in a hacking crime, so it's time to bring some vigilante justice to the bad people. Each crime in Gotham Knights plays like a mini game mode with rules and optional objectives. Nightwing's fighting style is acrobatic. He ping-pongs around the battlefield. While you can play the whole game solo, you can also protect Gotham in co-op with a friend. Here's Red Hood. Red Hood gained new abilities after being resurrected by an assassin cult. Here, he uses Mystical Leap to move across the rooftops, springboarded by his own soul energy. Successful attacks and dodges build up my momentum bar below, and timing my strikes and combos correctly makes it build faster. Once the bar is full, heroes can unleash powerful abilities. Red Hood's ranged attacks are a little louder. He fires non-lethal rounds that still do a lot of damage. Here's Red Hood's barrage ability, which deals piercing damage to interrupt armored attacks. The UI you're seeing can be customized to your preferences. What's on screen is what I like, but you can set it the way you like.
Gracias por llegar a Nalgas Sucias.
Holy perfect attack, Nightwing!
Now that we've prevented the Regulators from stealing data, let's follow Red Hood for a bit. The Bat Cycle is usable by all heroes in Gotham Knights. Let's watch Red Hood chase down a smuggling van in Southside neighborhood.
Gracias por llegar a robar el vendido.
Great. More shitheads. beat up.
Red Hood can unlock the ability to attach a bomb to thrown opponents, so he can detonate it with a shot later. It's a pretty good time.
Recuerda que puedes seguirme en todas mis redes sociales. Trogolibequetocor. Facebook.com stainicone.
Now we're back at the Belfry, the hero's home base. This next sequence is from early in the game, as we're just discovering the Court of Owls. The Bat computer runs the map of the city and lets us pursue challenges and advance the story. Nightwing is tracking his next story mission, investigating the Old Powers Club. The workbench is where we go to upgrade our equipment, making sure that we're ready for each new challenge through the game. Players find blueprints and crafting materials by taking on missions and fighting crime. Each blueprint has different stats, giving the player a wide range of cool choices for their individual strategy and style. Gear with mod slots is better because mod chips power up gameplay properties. At this point in the story, our characters are still processing the loss of Batman.
You could visit him?
I could what?
He went to yours when... You could visit his grave.
You haven't.
I'm not the one staring at the... you know.
Sometimes you're an idiot, Grayson.
Players can unlock fast travel to get around the city in a hurry with the Fast Bat.
Belfry, got anything court-related?
The Court of Owls. A secret society as old as Gotham itself. Run the city behind closed doors. According to the old poem, anyway.
Okay, but how does that line up with what Penguin said?
If this all-powerful court really is out there, they might be the ones getting all those creeps out of Blackgate. Which means they've been getting away with murder for centuries.
I hear you. Fingers crossed we'll learn more at the Powers Club.
It's time for Nightwing to sneak into court territory.
Gracias por llegar @Dr. Diego.
Stealth is always an advantage.
I'm in.
Be careful. Let us know if you find anything.
They have a few guards.
Your long lunch too, huh?
I'm not complaining. Nice to get a break once in a while.
So what do you think the poor bastard did?
What poor bastard? As far as I know, I just got a longer break.
Poor bastard. Wonder what that means.
Every hero has unique takedowns and finishing moves. Ambush strikes are faster than silent takedowns, but make more noise.
Now I can rummage in peace.
Augmented reality vision helps the heroes solve puzzles and investigate mysteries.
AR shows a trail of blood. I wonder what else it can see.
@DR
There's
Diego el
something under the
éxito está
floor.
safe.
The hatch is connected to some kind of network. There's got to be a way to open it.
Here we see Nightwing's elemental shockwave ability. It interrupts enemy armored attacks and deals elemental status effects.
Try this.
Cryostatus freezes an enemy, taking them out of the fight for a while.
Recuerda que puedes seguirme en todas mis redes sociales. Trobolibequetocor. Facebook.com está inicone.
And done.
Youtube.com chonelo.
A hidden staircase. That can't be good.
Shit, what's he doing here? I got something for you. Heads up.
For anybody wondering how this fight looks with Red Hood, check this out.
Kill the intruders first. Then you can think about the rewards.
How's about this?
Red Hood takes on a Talon Gladiator here, one of the Court of Owls' engineered superhuman assassins.
Oh yeah, here we go.
This fight is not over.
@Diego el éxito está
How's about this?
Wherever this belongs to must be in bad shape. Better hurry. That must be whoever they kidnapped.
Wait up! Look at me! I made a mistake! It won't happen again! Please!
Pre-order now and get the 233 custom Batcycle skin.
Zamora lies defeated, but her chained spirit still serves Macros. Use your spirit vision to reveal Zamora's influence on the realm. Bring the souls of the defeated to their final rest and unearth hidden treasures. What other secrets are hidden here? It's time to banish Zamora and free the Earth realm once and for all.
As Forza Horizon 5 crosses the finish line, the bar for open world racing has again been raised in so many different ways. A map of Mexico that's bigger, higher, and wildly more varied than any Horizon game yet. A fresh change to the way the Horizon Festival itself is gradually constructed, which results in more one-off events deliberately designed to showcase Horizon 5 at its very best. Improved tools that allow us to build completely custom events that can be more or less indistinguishable from those crafted by the developers themselves. An enormous visual upgrade, especially to lighting, tire smoke and dust effects. Hundreds and hundreds of new custom parts, rims and performance mods, and cars with more character than ever. Drastic sound improvements, better handling, more granular preferences and options, more online activities. It really is incredible across the board.
You just have to let go and enjoy the ride.
To understand just how big Forza Horizon 5 is, we have to briefly look back at Forza Horizon 4, which truly ballooned into an absolute colossus of a racing game back in 2018. Playground Games had taken the impeccable open-world racing of all the Horizon games to date, then stuffed in simulated seasons, a shared world multiplayer overhaul, and a shift in how the team told their mini automotive stories. But that was day one. Playground then spent another 3 years cramming in even more things to do. The festival playlist, where new activities were available every week. The Eliminator, Horizon's very clever and effective take on bringing the Battle Royale format to a racing game. The Super 7, where we could participate in custom-built racing, driving and stunt-based challenges made by others, plus create and share our own. What's impressive is that Forza Horizon 5 isn't just all this airlifted to a different part of the world, it's that it's all this and a remarkable amount more.
Look to the sky! Follow me and keep up!
The breadth of Playground's wonderfully diverse map of Mexico is exceptional, and it comes as an extremely exotic and interesting array of environments to get lost in after 3 years in Horizon 4's beautiful but broadly more uniform Britain. Horizon 5's tapestry of colourful locations and backdrops more closely resembles Horizon 3, but it feels noticeably more extensive than even Playground's remarkable 2016 riff on Australia. There's Baja, where the sun-baked tarmac hugs the coast as the parched, sandy desert blends into the beach, and Deep Jungle, where muddy tracks crisscross through ancient temples, abandoned airstrips, and thickets. There's the charmingly colourful city of Guanajuato and its maze-like network of cobblestone streets and tunnels, contrasted with a sleepy coastal town flanked by the ocean on one side and mangroves on the other. There's rolling green farmland, draped in crops and windswept grass, and also a picturesque gorge that looks like it's been plucked from a Western movie. There's the semi-arid desert of the map's interior, filled with towering cacti and stubborn shrubs, and the high and rocky volcanic peak of Gran Caldera. There's even a giant stadium for soccer practice. Back to Senna. Senna holds it, holds it, holds it! It's not exactly a perfect recreation, of course. As with all Horizon worlds to date, it pays no mind to reality, smooshing together a stylized vision of Mexico at its most interesting. But the result is a fantastic map, and the biggest in the series by far, by a striking margin. That size is best observed from atop the Gran Caldera volcano. The Playground Games team has stressed that it's the highest point in any Horizon game, but you won't have to take their word for it. Just drive up there and you'll see how much it dwarfs both Horizon 3's Blizzard Mountain and Horizon 4's Fortune Island expansions. The massive elevation change not only provides one of the best roads in the series to date, a switchback-filled mountain run I expect will become a drift mecca for the Sideways squad, but it's a killer display of Horizon 5's immense draw distance. I love games that make me feel small in a vast new space, and Horizon 5 does this very effectively. The garage is just as grand as the map itself, with well over 500 vehicles, and it's a selection that still handily eclipses all Forza Horizon's open-world racing rivals. Granted, there isn't a huge number of cars that are strictly new to the franchise, and those of us who stuck around Forza Horizon 4 every week for the last few years collecting every new car will have seen the lion's share of them before. But Playground has assuaged that slightly with the addition of a lot of new rim options and visual upgrades that may help breathe new life into cars you've seen a lot of previously. Changes to the livery editor also see it support higher resolution designs and graphics, but you still can't place decals on glass, which remains a shame. Between the cars and the map, however, Forza Horizon 5 is barnstormingly gorgeous on both fronts. On the Xbox Series X, that's true of both the 4K 30 frames per second quality mode and the 4K 60 frames per second performance mode. I've been playing mostly on the quality mode since the frame rate never ever wavers in either mode, remaining buttery smooth at all times and in all conditions, but know that the visual concessions in performance mode are generally so small you'd need to study freeze frames to spot the difference anyhow. It's tough to pick my favourite visual element of Horizon 5, but I think it might just be the drastically better smoke and dust effects, and especially how light interacts with the particles in the air. It looks brilliant. Of course, while Forza Horizon 5's show-stopping graphics are sucking most of the oxygen out of the room, there have been so many other improvements to the Horizon formula here, it's hard to know where to begin. The handling tweaks are deceptively extensive, with more authentic ABS braking, a snappier steering sensation, and suspension improvements that have resulted in a more convincing feel off-road. The radically revamped audio is superb, and the amount of cars that now sound blatantly different to each other has exploded. I especially love hearing the changes my performance parts are making to my car's sound in real time, nerdy behaviour which is encouraged by the ability to rev the engine during upgrade work. Even before launch, the new event building tools are already resulting in some outstanding and creative courses, races and activities being shared between early players. With considerably more props and far more granular options than Horizon 4's building tools, I'm expecting some of the user-generated content for Horizon 5 is going to be mind-bendingly good. A rethink in how the career mode unfolds has seen Playground add a new point system that allows you to take charge of what event hubs and special races you want to prioritise unlocking. These points, or accolades, are awarded for achieving major and minor feats, and essentially function as a dramatically expanded version of the brick challenges in Forza Horizon 4's LEGO expansion. What this has allowed Playground to do is add a handful of additional curated drives to Horizon 5, which it's dubbed Expeditions.
Hey Luke, that's it. It's time for an adventure.
These expeditions inject a little bit of the flavour of the Horizon series' fabulous but fleeting opening drive montages back into the main career, where Playground stage manages vehicles, the time of day lighting, and the weather for memorable journeys that showcase Horizon 5 at its very best.
Okay, that one was very close.
There's been some significant multiplayer massaging too. This time, Playground has ditched ranked play for something less pressurized that won't penalize you for other people's bad racing etiquette. Horizon 5's PvP modes have been grouped under a single umbrella and are now designed to embrace new players as championships progress, meaning that unlike Horizon 4, it seems like we should no longer be locked in dwindling groups of sore losers that hemorrhage players as races don't go their way. The hourly Forzathon Live events from Horizon 4 have also been brushed aside in favour of the newly christened Horizon Arcade. It functions similarly to Forzathon Live. They're still co-op events where everyone contributes to a common goal, but there's a greater variety of activities. They can be fun spectacle, particularly when dozens of pinatas are raining from the sky, but I do find they can descend into a bit of a slog when they go the full 10 minutes. Then there's the tiny stuff, which still all adds up. A more intuitive car collection display which lets you quickly buy multiple new cars for your garage and skip the menu shuffling in the dealership screens. A cute activity where you hide cars from your own garage for other players to find inside barns you've discovered around the map.
Shall we send a thank you?
Hell, there's finally even the ability to toggle between opting for metric measurements but retaining horsepower for power measurements, because kilowatts are for vacuum cleaners. Forza Horizon 5 is a deep and nuanced carnivana for rev heads and auto geeks to endlessly collect, tinker and experiment. It's also an extremely accessible buffet of racing spectacle open to everyone from day one. Deluxe edition diehards to Game Pass nomads, no matter their driving skill or mechanical knowledge. It's an occasionally goofy but always earnest Valentine to Mexico's world-famous culture, and a romantic ode to the magic of road tripping through postcard-perfect vacation vistas. It's a long-haul, MMO-inspired racer that's exploding with more races, activities, and event types that can comfortably fit on the map, and yet it still always feels relaxed rather than daunting. It never locks you into something you don't want to do and steadily rewards you for however you choose to play it. It looks beautiful, it sounds magnificent, and it is glorious to play. Yes, Forza Horizon 5 is a lot of things. Above all, however, it is the result of a racing studio at the peak of its craft, and the best open world racing game I've ever played. For more on Forza Horizon 5, check out our technical analysis, and for more on the whole series, check out our look back at the history of the Forza games. For everything else, stick with IGN.
The legacy of From Software's Soul series is not defined just by the amazing games that it's made up of, but also the subgenre that has been given life thanks to its very existence, the Souls-like. To celebrate this subgenre and to whet our appetites for the upcoming Elden Ring, here are our picks for the top 10 Souls-likes. Now, defining what exactly constitutes a Souls-like is a bit tricky because there's a lot of core elements of the Souls games, but for the purpose of this video, here are the key things that a game must have to be a Souls-like. Punishing consequences for death, souls, or a currency gained by defeating enemies that is integral to character progression and can be lost upon death, methodical combat, typically tied to a stamina meter, and bonfire-like checkpoints that reset the world. Also, we're gonna keep this list From Software free. This is a list of the best Souls-likes, not the best Souls games. And yeah, sorry, that also means no Sekiro and Bloodborne. Now that we've got all that out of the way, let's kick this off with arguably the first game to directly crib the mechanics and feel of Dark Souls, Lords of the Fallen applies the genre's hallmark stick-and-move combat to a more conventional, loot-driven action RPG. Though it doesn't test your mettle in quite the same way as its masochistic inspiration, its riff on the bonfire system, which gives you the opportunity to bank experience at checkpoints or keep it on you to earn more, tests and tempts players in its own way. Don't underestimate Code Vein for being anime Dark Souls. Bandai Namco's post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy vampire adventure brings deliciously brutal combat and some mechanically interesting twists. Switching classes and experimenting with lots of weapons and playstyles is strongly encouraged. You can and are basically expected to play the whole game as part of a duo with either a friend or AI companion who backs you up through hectic battles that are tough enough for two. Each Darksiders game has been a different flavor of hack and slash, with the first game being largely influenced by The Legend of Zelda, and the second being a mixture of a variety of character action games with Diablo-inspired loot. But Darksiders 3 was a Souls-like through and through, though its combat is not tied to a stamina meter, something generally intrinsic to the Souls-like genre. It still nonetheless employs the same style of methodical and deliberate combat that is exceptionally punishing for every mistake. Darksiders 3 also stands out from the rest of the Souls-like genre thanks to its lingering influence of The Legend of Zelda that carries over from prior games. There's a larger emphasis on puzzles and environmental problem solving than is typical within this genre, making it an interesting departure despite its firmly established Souls-like roots.
Come on then. Take a sit and have a drink. We can watch life pass on by.
Mortal Shell is shorter and less complex than many of the best Souls-likes, but it has two unique mechanics that make it stand out. You control a ghost who possesses the corpses of different warriors with different weapons and abilities, and you can charge up a block by hardening your corpse shell so you can take a hit while attacking and not get hurt. Its spooky vibe and stress-inducing combat channels the Souls games that inspired it. It just doesn't get much more Souls-like than this. One of the more defining and weirdly endearing characteristics of a great Souls-like is how obtuse it is in how it reveals its enemies, items, and story as it slowly unfolds. 2018's Ashen from Studio A44 and Annapurna Interactive is just the right amount of obtuse to inspire players to inch forth through its treacherous, minimalist world. Ashen is tough, unforgiving, and brilliantly stripped down to the core DNA of what makes a Souls-like tick. Sure, most of its characters barely have feet or even faces, and the art direction feels deliberately stripped down and cel-shaded compared to its grizzled and lavish Soulsborne bigger brothers, but all of that just makes it feel much more haunting, austere, and isolating. Not too isolating though, because Ashen really clicks in passive co-op multiplayer, where friends can team up to explore and subsequently die in its sprawling, eerie world together. Mixing bleak, dystopian sci-fi horror with hard-hitting melee combat, labyrinthine environments, and tough-as-nail boss fights may seem like your standard issue Souls-like formula, but Remnant from the Ashes adds emphasis on a very iconic video game weapon class: guns. Heavy-duty ground combat, complete with procedurally generated stages, makes Remnant feel different enough from its counterparts while still paying homage to the games that inspired it. Most importantly though, it's a ton of fun, and occasionally tough as nails, and has some really unique lore to boot. And if the main game sinks its hooks into you, there's also 2 DLC packs and an entire prequel spin-off game to keep you going. Both the Surge and the Surge 2 take the multiplayer/countdown mechanics introduced in Lords of the Fallen and add a Monster Hunter-esque crafting system to put a unique sci-fi stamp on the Soulsborne genre. Dismembering zombified cyborgs to craft new weapons and armor offers a grisly injection of strategic fun, and some really excellent environmental design and storytelling in the first game provides a great setup to the series' dystopian future. While the story might get a little bit unwieldy as it progresses, the 2019 sequel improves the gameplay mechanics and progression loop that made the original such a satisfying action RPG. One of the first truly notable Souls-likes, Salt and Sanctuary is perhaps the one that most unabashedly embraces that identity. This is a game that wears its Souls inspirations proudly on its sleeves. But what makes it so special is that for as much as it sticks to the core fundamentals of a Souls-like, it also introduces completely new elements. There are platforming sections that play with the rules of gravity, there's couch co-op play, making it one of the best Souls-likes to play through with a buddy, there's a super in-depth skill tree that allows for a ton of customizations in terms of your playstyle, and all of this on top of super satisfying combat, a great variety of weapons that behave very differently from each other, deep progression mechanics, and much, much more. At first glance, you might not think Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order much of a Souls-like. Lightsaber battles, force-assisted parkour, and an actual story not hidden in item descriptions. But the blood of Souls games can still be found running through its veins. Many of its challenging battles against the Empire or deadly alien fauna come down to a strategic understanding of an enemy's moves and style, when to dodge unblockable attacks or parry at the right time, even interrupting with a well-placed force push. While no stamina meter is present, Fallen Order relies on wearing down an opponent's stun meter with perfect strikes and blocks, similar to Sekiro. Checkpoints to rest are sparse, and enemy ambushes are plentiful, rewarding careful progression and an eye for secrets. And let's not forget the most lovable robot Estus Flask ever to grace the screen, BD1. Okay, now before we go into our number 1, we have to call out an honorable mention that didn't make this list, not because we missed it or because we didn't like it, but because calling it a Souls-like just didn't really sit well with us. While undeniably inspired by Dark Souls in many ways, Hollow Knight doesn't really play like the other games on this list in practice. Yes, it shares a similar storytelling style of letting you piece together the history of its world and your role within it through more subtle dialogue and rich lore, as well as that familiar death mechanic of having to reach the place you died to retrieve your money, but its combat, progression, and movement systems are extremely different from the Souls setup. Most notably the lack of a stamina meter, and while there are other games on this list that also lack a stamina meter, there's also a significantly more forgiving healing system that doesn't rely on reaching enemy resetting checkpoints to refill. Fights themselves are also far more reminiscent of platformers like Castlevania or even Mega Man than the patient, timing-focused encounters of a Souls game. So, while Hollow Knight is an incredible platformer that certainly owes its Dark Souls inspiration a lot, its gameplay doesn't actually use FromSoft's signature style to the same extent as others on this list. But hey, if you disagree, feel free to pretend Hollow Knight's right here on this list and bump everything else down. We won't judge. Moving on. The best Souls-likes find a way to use what the Souls series did as a starting point, and then find a way to leap off from there and do their own thing. None do this better than the Nioh series. It still has all the essential qualities of a Souls-like, but Team Ninja manages to tweak each of those qualities in ways that make the Nioh games feel familiar, but also completely distinct. Take combat for example. It's still got that careful and deliberate pace thanks to a stamina bar that governs your every action, but on top of that is also a key pulse mechanic that allows you to regain that stamina with well-timed button presses after each attack, which facilitates a much faster pace to the action. Add on top of that the unbelievably deep gear system, the huge skill trees for each weapon and type of magic, along with a lengthy campaign and tons of post-game content, and it's easy to see why the Nioh series is placed on such a high pedestal among Souls-likes. And that's our list. What do you think? Agree? Disagree? Still think Hollow Knight should have made it? Let us know in the comments, and for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
My name is Isabelle Valois. I'm an aspirant in the Sapphire Tourney, a proving ground for squires looking to join the knightly orders.
She is honest, and she is kind, and she is deeply devoted to the values of knighthood.
The people of the Sisters take pride in our knights, the same as anywhere in High Rock.
I think one of the favorite ways she was described to me when I first started recording her was, she's like that girl on your dorm floor who finds out that you have alcohol in your room. And she would never turn you in for it ever, but she will definitely give you the side eye and maybe a little lecture about why that's not the smartest idea.
Eight above, help me. They're artists and sailors, singers, bards, and pirates all. Brave, swashbuckling warriors that make you recite poetry. Ghastly stuff.
She is a follower of the god Stendar, who is both the god of righteous might and mercy. So I think that says a lot about her. She believes the world is what you make of it. So it's shaped by her choices. And because of that, I think she can leave the world better than she found it.
Of course. Drake, I'm sorry. I bet I came on a little strong. I've spent months preparing for the tourney.
These companion characters are so well-rounded. It feels like they're alive, you know? As you spend time with them in the game, you really get to see their personalities fully. I think it just creates this bond with your companion that is so important when you're playing this game.
Sorry, it's a curse I picked up from my dad. A word from the old druid tongue that's been co-opted for common folk. I sort of grew up here at the castle, and it's a little more acceptable than the curses the dockhands use. So I use it.
And I really love that both the companion characters available are so very different. You know, they couldn't be more opposite. So with Isabelle, you get this beautiful, wholesome, knightly experience.
I would never. Stealing is, well, unknightly.
If you decide to have Ember as your companion, you can just lean into the trash fire because she's so much fun.
Now, let's get things started.
Word of advice. Never take a Black Marsh Argonian for granted when it comes to cards. I can't tell you how many people fall for that whole I'm a simple lizard lost in the big city routine.
So in the new High Isle chapter, we have the Tales of Tribute game, new card game. Bragus introduces the player to that new game.
Ha! If Frey's bones, an introduction would be nice, wouldn't it? Call me Bragas. Professional gambler and semi-professional everything else. Apart from sailor, that is. I hate the water. And this character, he's a gambler, he's a talker, he likes people. How he attacks this game, this new card game, is how he attacks life. All in. He is just all in on everything. And it's a game within a game that you can go into a tavern, meet someone you don't know, sit down, and you play this new card game together. It's brilliant. Do yourself a favour. Never bet on horse races, or guar, or mixhounds, or giant spiders. Really, any sport where the participants can run faster than you. Torch bugs are alright though. I see life as a team game. I think Bragas does as well. I think he likes to see other people succeed. He likes to see other people being happy. People need a place to relax, chum. The ancient anchor's fine for sailors on shore leave, but people looking for a really good time always come here. So I think a night in the pub with Bragas, a couple of beers, a little Tales of Tribute would be fantastic. I think we'd have a great time together. Go out and win some games, my friend. It really is true that experience is the greatest teacher, especially when it comes to Tales of Tribute. I'll be rooting for you the entire way.
From Software have had a design brief, and they're sticking to it. From demons to the dark, from blood to Sekiro, the masochistic punishment remains in Elden Ring. But is this new entry a mere Tolkien gesture to change that brief, or the ring to rule them all? Now, dad joke intro aside, Elden Ring launches this week across last generation PC and now gen consoles, and today we get to suffer for the plight of all you tarnished souls to bring vital details on the Series X, the PlayStation 5 and the Series S. Now, if you need to know how this game plays out, where have you been for the past 15 or so years? Suffice to say, the game remains true to the core aspects of From Software, with bonfires now being sites of grace and everything that moves able to kill you within an instant. The big change comes from structure and additions to that tried and true formula. The map is now vast and largely open from the start. You can also fast travel very quickly between these sites after you have visited them, at least on foot, and you also get brand new steeds to speed up your travel across the map, and this is quite a significant change to the sometimes very tedious retreading back to the last boss battle that slapped you from pillar to post. These are both a gameplay and technical update that means loading, travel and streaming are now much heavier on the engine and hardware, giving us more to discuss later in the review. Another big update, again technical and visual this time, is a dynamic weather system, and time of day has now been added into the game. This does remove the feeling you are just stuck in a Groundhog Day battle in limbo within each of these battles. Sunrise adds a lovely red tint, broad daylight helps see much further, and darkness emphasises the burning torches and the sheer horror you face. Sun, rain and strong winds with fog also really enhance the visual quality and variety you will face. This adds more load on the engine, as now textures and lighting cannot be baked, with shadow maps shifting, stretching and changing the dynamic of the scene. I appreciated the effort here, and although not a revolution by any means in gaming, this is a vast step forward for From, and means that Elden Ring is the most technically forward-looking title that they have made, really building on all those previous elements with clear Bloodborne and Sekiro influences creeping in, not least of which include stealth options, your very own horse, and a jump button. The sky really is the limit with this one. Resolution wise and performance, we have two modes available for our delights across all three platforms. As is the common standard, we have a priority choice to make, either frame rate or quality. This predominantly boils down to resolution sacrifices on each console. LOD, foliage, ambient occlusion, etc. all remain pretty much identical on all three platforms between each mode. The only exception is shadow resolution, and possibly filtering is higher on the Series X and PS5 over Series S, and it's higher in the quality mode than it is in the frame rate mode. Now, prior to the day one patch being released, version 1.02, only the PlayStation 5 had per object motion blur and camera radial blur, but it's now been restored in the Series X and the Series S in frame rate mode. It was already there in quality mode, and likely a quick win for performance reasons, but they've obviously optimized the Xbox versions now and put that back in, and obviously improved performance ever so slightly, which I'll get to at the end of the video. So you'll see some shots here that were captured before that was applied, but the later performance capture is showing that with it applied in both the performance mode and obviously the quality mode. The resolution differences between the two do stand out though. Now let's go from the top down. In quality mode, both the PS5 and the Series X target a fixed resolution from all my counts of 3840 by 2160, and this is much cleaner and sharper on all the thin sub-pixel and thus high frequency elements of the screen, from foliage, specular highlights, particles and texture details, ultimately presenting the game in the very best light possible, and without any overtly intrusive TAA solution. It can be pin sharp at certain times of day to enable those texture details to stand out. It's still a very noisy image though. They use chromatic aberration at the edge of the screen, lots of motion blur when you're moving around, and generally the sub-pixel element does dither and shimmer quite a lot, which causes some movement in sub-pixel elements and foliage. There are other elements in terms of shadow maps shimmering around and lots of foliage popping in as you walk through the world. At some points it can be quite drastic as things can move in and out. Now the quality mode is much better and cleaner, although it still has some shimmering, but it's very, very minor. And the frame rate mode in certainly the PS5 and the Series X case does have a reduction to image quality that is very apparent, and it can emphasize that shimmering movement and reduce the texture details. But once you're in action, and again because of that motion blur, it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference to a title like this, where the art and assets aren't designed around pin sharp accuracy. Now, the Series S runs the quality mode at 55% reduced resolution than the other two consoles, at a fixed 2560 by 1440 from all my counts. It may be dynamic, I didn't catch any points where it was. Now, the frame rate mode changes this to a definite dynamic solution, and now with the Series S topping out at 2560 by 1440, so long as you're looking at the sky, but in action it's often 2080 by 1170 or even 1080p, and at points quite often in heavy battles just under a low point of 1792 by 1008, giving us a 51% scaling factor from that 1440p target. The impact to image quality is pretty large on a 4K screen. It can come at the cost of clarity and motion that for me is not worth that balance from a personal perspective, but more on that shortly. The PlayStation 5 and Series X both appear to have an identical resolution target. Skywards, we see 3840 by 2160, and then in action a low of 2688 by 1512 on both. However, the PlayStation 5 is often higher than the Series X, with this shot being at that lower 1512p on Series X here, and it's 1620p on the PlayStation 5. This is potentially a reason why the performance is much closer post-patch, meaning we see a circa 12 to 15% gain to the PS5 in some sections where heavy foliage, overdraw and shadow maps are in play. But in reality though, this delta is academic, as those resolutions, even when zoomed in, barely make it perceptible, and certainly not in action. The lack of per object motion blur would have stood out even more, but it's now been restored in this patched version, although it can sometimes be disabled even on the Series X when you're moving around. It definitely has some kind of issue in there, or maybe it's dynamic, I don't know, but sometimes you can see it and sometimes you can't. The results are a game that can look softer and more noisy in this mode, as it rarely hits 4K on both machines unless the on-screen action is very light. We had to wait until the launch patch was released, and we tested all these versions on version 1.01 and then again on 1.02 to ensure we got an accurate state of how the game will launch when you play it. As such, we can see that both modes run with a 60 FPS cap on the frame rate. It's just that one hits that target much better than the other. Taking quality first, we can see the Series X and the PlayStation 5 never hit 60 during the tested sections, with highs of 45 and 47 respectively here, and both dipping into the 30s. Normally, unlocking your frame rates when they're this low is usually a no-no, but From Software's engine is notorious for bad frame pacing. Fundamentally, the delivery of frames over an even cadence. Think of it like a drum. See the frame time graph on the left. So long as that drum beat, the frame time is smooth and even, everything feels correct. But when it's variable, then it all goes out of sync, and you can really get affected by that in terms of the on-screen actions, the controller input times, and all of that negatively affects your experience. As such, leaving this unlocked is the better option, as a cap to 30 FPS would still cause judder, but would likely feel no better and possibly worse at points. As such, this mode is really a 30 FPS mode, but left to run at 16 millisecond frame times to ease memory budget and frame buffer flips, which could be anywhere between 16 and 66 milliseconds. Series S is identical, but of course worse. The quality mode only hits low 40s now, when screen view is at a bare minimum. Most of the time it is 32 or lower, and can drop sub 30 FPS even with the latest patch applied in the frame rate mode. Again, the impact here is a 30 FPS game most of the time, but due to the freedom of frame rates, we actually get a better presentation in this mode than if it was capped to 30, I would suspect. As such, it makes sense why they have done such a thing. The frame rate mode does improve here by 45%, give or take, enabling 60 FPS to be hit. Sadly though, it's rarely here and can still drop sub 30 FPS even at sub 1080p. The like-for-like examples here show what this means for image quality and frame times. The main choice here comes down to your screen. If you've got a 1080p one, then the resolution cost is lower, and thus the increase to game fluidity is welcome and might be worthwhile. But on a 4K screen, this is not the case, and as such, the choice here is to leave it at quality mode, in my opinion, as the increased performance, although welcome, is insufficient to balance the IQ cost for such a display. But the choice is best, and I'm happy to report From Software have given you that choice to make, which is another improvement over previous releases, besides Sekiro. The PS5 and Series X have almost the same challenges, but the IQ cost is much smaller, and as such, I think even on a 4K screen, the increase to fluidity is the best compromise, as you're always north of 1440p, which is where the Series S tops out. What we do see though is performance gains to the PS5. Again, not 100% like for like, but we can see 4 to 7 FPS at best, some 13 to 20% in quality mode over the Series X, even with the latest patches applied. Again, this is academic, as outside of this analysis you would never really notice it, as the action and variation makes them both feel more 30 than 60, with the same reasons I've just explained. But it does stand as a good benchmark here for the actual From Software engine, certainly favouring the PS5's configuration and API, but with the patches applied it is much better, but it doesn't really achieve a consistent and stable 30 FPS frame rate, but it is better than previous releases, albeit not including Sekiro, which also had that option. The frame rate mode does do a better job though, with the sacrifices just explained to hit that higher ceiling. However, neither are close to being locked, and again can dip back into the high or even low 30s from my tests. Due to the resolution scaling here being an additional factor, we also see some higher deltas in those frame rates, sometimes 10 to 15 FPS at the very heaviest fill rate bound sections, but at others it can be literally 1 to 2 FPS, leaving us with a small but clear gain for the PS5 over the Series X, which again aligns with the results we saw in quality mode even post that day one patch. This does leave the PS5 performing better than the other consoles, but not by a huge level, and I doubt anyone would really spot the difference aside this kind of deep analysis, but it's still something to note if you have both consoles to play it on. Cutscenes can again be some of the most impactful in terms of performance, but as a passive experience, that's not really an issue. just
Gracias
before
por
we
llegar,
wrap
arroba
up
me
the
pica el
performance
derecho.
review here, there is one thing to note, and that is PlayStation players get that unique opportunity to simply play backwards compatibility titles, including new ones from the PS4, or in this case the PS4 Pro. That means if these frame dips, and they are pretty persistent, you will feel them throughout the title no matter which version you play. There is one unique option that's simple for PlayStation 5 players, and that is simply download the PS4 version. That gives you access to the PlayStation 4 Pro version, which runs at a 3200 by 1800 resolution, but it means you get absolutely no dips in my tested sections here. Fully locked 60 FPS with no issues. There are other caveats with that version which I'll cover in the next video, but overall, if you do want to have the most solid performing version, and that includes the PC, and I'll cover that in the next video as well, then certainly try this, as I think you'll find it a benefit if you are susceptible to frame dips. And let's be honest, From Software are well known for it throughout their history. Lastly, we have loading, which is another area that PS5 wins, but this time by the largest amount. Almost 3 times faster from a load to the save point on the same game. 6.3 seconds versus 17.8 on the Series X, and around 1% slower, half a second on the Series S. For a game like this, that is very welcome, as you will be able to die even more in the same time on the PlayStation 5, and how is that not a win? Fast travel and respawn show a similar delta, anywhere between 1.8 to 3 times the speed of the Series X to the PS5, and the same for the Series S, a little slower. And that's a big part of this game, because you spend a lot of time travelling, loading, and certainly dying. This is another classic entry in that Souls, Death, Punishment series that From Software are synonymous with. It does push improvements in model quality, scene density, lighting effects and more, but largely these may seem cosmetic, but they do add to the enjoyment and improve the variety the game offers. It's certainly not a groundbreaking revolution in terms of technical development and asset quality. Even PBR materials are of a similar level that we saw in Sekiro. It is definitely, from a technical perspective, up with the best the team have made. There are some bugs, shadow map flickering, pop-in and other issues. It's still an atmospheric and well-designed, art-driven title. The Series S does lose out on such heavy GPU title as this, and basic LOD culling is a key area the engine could definitely improve on, with buildings staying visible from miles out. There are half-rate animations that still crop up, and overall the performance, even with 2 modes, never hits a stable level both at 30 and 60 that should be expected even from Software. If you have the choice, the PS5 is the better one all round in all modes and all areas, but Series X still offers a welcome boost over the previous generation and is never that far away from the PS5 to cause great concern. Fundamentally, if you played Dark Souls and such back in the PS360 days, then this is a silky smooth affair. You could say it's one to die for. Anyway, that's the end of another technical deep dive into games, technology and all things game related, but remember, keep it IGN for much more, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Reapers might think they've already won, but we'll show them that we don't stand for that sort of nonsense in the Sea of Thieves. We can fight back. We can rebuild Golden Sands.
Oh, yeah? And who's gonna rebuild it? You?
Well, obviously we can't do it alone. We're gonna need every brave and true pirate that calls these seas home. We need to gather as many supplies as we can and bring them here. We'll show the Reapers we don't give up so easily.
So, they think they can
just rebuild. We must act swiftly. They cannot be allowed to restore Golden Sands. We will call more pirates to our banners, and all will tremble before the might of the flame.
Okay, in case you missed it, Bethesda announced today that Starfield and Redfall have been delayed to the first half of 2023. Not great news. I'm Brian Altano. This is Ryan McCaffrey. Let's break down what this means for this year and for next year for Xbox. How you doing, McCaffrey?
I'm good, man. The Brian and Ryan show. It has been way too long since you and I sat down. Sadly, it's over bad news, but there is some good to be taken out of this, at least.
That's true. That's true. Now, obviously, they had originally committed to the 11/11/22 date. I love that. It was catchy. That's not happening. So that was part of the whole sort of big Bethesda buyout. We saw Starfield was probably one of the most anticipated games of the year, one of the biggest games of the year, definitely one of the most ambitious games of the year. Fallout in space, as the shorthand goes for it. But not surprising that it's getting moved like almost every giant game has during this pandemic era of gaming. So I'm sort of stumped as to what this means exactly right now for Xbox, because we know that big things are coming, and we'll get to that in a second. But I think right now in the short term for 2022, it does put them in a very unique spot in not having any sort of significant big first-party games to tout for, their both of their consoles, which are by all means very successful otherwise.
Yeah, highest revenue console platform of Q1 2021. They've got a lot of momentum on the hardware side. On the platform side, of course, Game Pass continues to get bigger and bigger. But you're right. Like, for all the momentum that they had from last year with Halo, with Forza Horizon, with Psychonauts 2, with a number of other third-party exclusives as well, things were really looking up. And unfortunately, just the way the development cookie crumbles, 2022 is suddenly looking pretty bleak as far as Xbox exclusives goes. So what we've had so far, because Sony's had a tremendous year already, and that's we don't even have God of War Ragnarok yet. So they got that to look forward to on the PlayStation side. But on Xbox, we had Crossfire X, which was a disappointment. We had the best game of the year so far for Xbox exclusive-wise, the game behind me, Tunic, which I reviewed, gave a 9. No regrets. The game's amazing. Brian Altano, it is definitely a Brian Altano kind of game. If you haven't played it yet, you've got to play it.
Playing it on Xbox and restarted it on Steam Deck too. Yeah, it's fun.
Nice. Oh yeah, good Steam Deck game too. Shredders, a snowboarding game. So that's an exclusive most people probably weren't even aware of. That was definitely a smaller time game. And then there is one we should be able to mark like in pen, not in pencil. And that's Deathloop, which we already know is a 10 out of 10 video game. The 1-year exclusivity on PlayStation will expire in September of this year. So presumably we will get that. I don't know if they'll be able to talk about it at the showcase next month, the Xbox showcase, because who knows what the terms of that deal are with Sony. But we should be seeing that this fall, I think, on Xbox.
Which puts that one next to the sort of like interesting category with, Ghostwire being on PS5 and Xbox having a part of that too. Part of that, those 1-year exclusivity deals as well. So yeah, that's it's that is part of the conversation. It is a small part, but it is in there.
And then the rest of 2022 for now. Now, Altano recognized that the showcase in 1 month from today, June 12th, it's May 12th as we shoot this, I'm sure we'll get some 2022 release dates. And I'm going to talk about a couple that I think are somewhat likely, but here's what's currently on the schedule. Only one of the games I'm about to list for you has an actual specific day that's on the calendar, and that is Warhammer 40,000 Darktide. That is a third-party Xbox exclusive scheduled for September 13th of this year. Also on the calendar, again, all third-party stuff at the moment, Scorn, which is the long-delayed, just first-person, disgusting horror game, very H.R. Geiger-esque, that looks like it'll be pretty good. That's scheduled for October, but no date yet. And then games without even any months, they're just still for now, 2022. Some really cool stuff here. Somerville, which is from the ex-Limbo and Inside developers. That game looks phenomenal. And then you've got Replaced, another, indie exclusive, but that was a big standout from the showcase last year at E3 2021. That's that side-scrolling pixel art steampunk game that looked fantastic. That grabbed a lot of attention last year. That is as far as we know, penciled in for 2022 on Xbox. And then another one, which I have major doubts about because we've heard literally zero about it since its announcement. The announcement did millions of views on IGN. That was Ark 2. You remember that was the trailer. That's the Ark sequel that had Vin Diesel in the trailer. So
my brain had completely forgotten about that until you reminded me of it this morning, by the way.
Well, me too. I had to do my research and I was like, oh yeah, that was okay. That's still 2022. Yeah, probably not. But unless, who knows? Maybe we'll get a pleasant surprise at the Xbox showcase for that one. And then Halo Infinite's already out, but we'll have season 3 of that game for the multiplayer, free-to-play multiplayer, starting in November. So that's, that'll be new maps, new modes, some stuff to look forward to there. So that's it, Brian. We can talk about some maybes on the first party side for 2022.
Well, that's the thing. What's interesting about Xbox right now is that they do own a ton of studios. They do have a bunch of irons in the fire, as they say. But it does feel like a bunch of them got moved for this year, and that's just sort of bad coincidence. It could be just an overall perfect storm happening here. But yeah, there are some question marks of stuff that we know is in the works, but I would be surprised if some of these games came out this year, but who knows? They're worth mentioning, right? So there's Hellblade 2.
Yeah, that, because we've seen that a couple times. We got a 6-minute gameplay trailer for that at the Game Awards back in December, so 6 months ago now. And that one we know is Unreal Engine 5, and Unreal Engine 5 is finished and shipped to developers. So I feel like of the first-party titles that are in the hopper for Microsoft, Hellblade 2 has at least maybe a 50-50, a coin flips chance of coming out this year. And maybe that's the plan, right? Maybe, because of course Microsoft knows these games could all delay, including Starfield. Todd Howard, sadly, unsuccessful in calling his shot, Babe Ruth style, last year, saying 11/11/22. But that's all right. I mean, we want Starfield to be the best game it can be. I'll wait as long as it takes.
Agreed.
So, maybe Hellblade 2.
What was it? Two or 3 weeks ago, actually, the Xbox UK account tweeted out like 200 days until Starfield. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
and and it is worth mentioning that days do take longer on other planets. So maybe that's part of it.
It's November 11th in the Starfield universe, just not on Earth.
It's like 2,000 something hours for a full day on Venus, so maybe that's where it's taking place. We've got Forza Motorsport. That's a potential. I mean, what do you think the likelihood of that launching this year is?
Again, probably a 50-50 coin flip, because that's same thing. We haven't heard about this since it was announced at the 2020 showcase. So it's 2 years since I'm sure, I would bet lunch that I would bet you a Taylor ham sandwich that we will see that at the Xbox showcase next month. Whether it A, gets a release date, and B, if it does, if that release date is this year, remains to be seen. We had Forza Horizon 5, IGN's Game of the Year for 2021. Last fall, we know that this Forza Motorsport is a reboot of the Sim side of the franchise. It's going to be next-gen only, no more Xbox One. So I think that's, it's a maybe for this year. My gut is leaning towards no, but I think there's an outside chance that could land this fall.
We've also got the Indiana Jones game from Machine Games, which we got a brief glimpse of. It was kind of that overhead death shot of the map and stuff like that. My gut on this one is that this will get timed closer to the movie release, whenever that is happening. That new Indiana Jones 5 or whatever feels like that's been being worked on for ages now. But never say never. I do hope we see something about that in the showcase, because I don't know, it just sounds awesome. I love Indiana Jones. And then there's that kind of rumored GoldenEye remaster that, who knows, that one, that's the game that at least 14 different intellectual property holders were involved with at some point. That's a whole rat's nest. Now, one thing that I have been thinking about a little bit today is that Xbox does have a ton of money, and they theoretically freed up a bunch of marketing dollars this fall. So could they potentially throw some money at a third-party game to do a Outriders-style day-and-date launch on Game Pass this fall? But digging around, this fall isn't that crazy for anyone really. You know, like we mentioned God of War before, which I cannot wait for. Game still does not have a release date. Breath of the Wild 2 got moved to next year. There is a Call of Duty this year, although that is theoretically taking a year off at some point next year, I believe.
Yeah, the Treyarch game next time. Yeah.
Yep. So in terms of big games this fall, we've got Gotham Knights, which we got a sort of 13-minute extended demo of this week.
October 25th for that one, I believe.
We've got Saints Row in, I believe, late August. So not exactly a fall game, but not really like a ton of really big things that they could be like, here's some money, launch it on Game Pass along with everything else, right? So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head on how well that sort of deal works historically for third-party publishers going on to Game Pass day and date as the other platforms. But it seems like people, you know, studios aren't necessarily against it or apprehensive to it, and some are even embracing it. So that's a chance. I mean, what do you see happening there?
I mean, I think you nailed the major candidates. What few there are so far.
Yeah.
I mean, Saints Row. I mean, I don't think that moves the needle. With all due respect to Saints Row, which is a series that I've enjoyed for many years. I think Saints Row. I'm in the Saints Row 3 is the best Saints Row camp. I know I'm going to get some commenters that are going to say Saints Row 2. Much love to you guys. They're both excellent choices, but
3's my favorite too.
This new Saints Row reboot's not doing anything for me so far. We'll see how that goes, but I do think Gotham Knights would move the needle. That's a significant game. You know, that's a game we were talking about it on Next Gen Console Watch this week, the one that hasn't aired yet. It will air after this records, but oh well. That one, you know, they had their old gen versions canceled. PS4 and Xbox One canceled.
Right.
That could be something where Microsoft might want to throw a few bags of cash at WB and say, hey, let's get this on Game Pass, and then let's use the cloud technology that we've been building to stream it to Xbox One users so they can play the game, which is something that we saw Microsoft do with Microsoft Flight Simulator last year.
Right.
A next-gen only game that you can play on your Xbox One with your Game Pass Ultimate subscription through the cloud streaming there. So, you know, that's a possibility. But yeah, I mean, 2022, the showcase is going to have to bring something, and I think it will. That's the bad news. But the good news, Brian, is that 2023 is going to be insane. Like, as bleak as 2022 is looking at the moment for Xbox, 2023 could, I mean, I know we throw around best year ever a lot, which is good. Like, that means because we're excited, but seriously, 2023, Brian.
I agree, and like I will point out that, you know, there have been a lot of years over the last decade where it feels like Xbox is like, okay, so not this year, but next year is going to be the big one. And
the Chicago Cubs of the video game industry.
Yeah,
the Chicago Cubs did eventually win the World Series.
They did. It took a long time, but they did. They lifted the curse. I went to art school with a lot of people that would they wouldn't put a lot of art up on the wall for critique, but they'd be like, I got this painting at home I'm working on. I swear to God, it's amazing. Just believe me. And eventually, you know, they'd have to show them proof or they wouldn't pass the class. So that's just the reality of things, you know. But it is worth mentioning. I do feel that next year, and I agree with you, I do feel that next year is going to be big, not just for Xbox, I think for a lot of companies, but I think Xbox specifically has a lot of really cool stuff that they're working on that didn't make it this year, didn't make it last year. And so let's speed run through why 2023 is something to look forward to after this year has definitely not been great for them.
Yeah, the rapid fire version of this, but just let this sink in. Like, you're going to hear these really fast, but think about if all, or even realistically, like 2/3 of these come out, next year is going to be bonkers. And everything you're about to hear will come to Game Pass on day one. Let that sink in as well. Starfield, Redfall, Ghostwire Tokyo coming off of its 1-year PlayStation exclusivity. That deal should expire in March of 2023. Avowed, huge first-person RPG, very exciting from Obsidian. The Fable reboot from Playground, Gears of War 6, State of Decay 3, Everwild from Rare. You look at the calendar, id Software's next game, whatever it is.
Right.
There's some maybe speculation that it could be a Quake reboot. You look at the calendar, you know, they shipped Doom Eternal in March of 2020. So, you know, maybe fall 2023 would be 3.5 years. There's a distinct possibility there. And then one other one that leaked late last year is a game called Pentiment which is another Obsidian game from renowned director Josh Sawyer. It's a murder mystery game by the leaked description. That could very well be next year. So, you know, that's a lot of bangers for 2023. Right. And then just to finish looking out on the horizon, I know, you know, this is going to feel far away, and I guess 2 years away is still pretty far away, but 2024 onwards, Perfect Dark. And the reason I say that is because we've had reports that Perfect Dark's in a little bit of a rough place right now. So I can't imagine that game's a year, even 18 months away. So probably 2024. So Perfect Dark, The Outer Worlds 2, The Last Night. Remember that one, Brian? That's another pixel art cyberpunk game that looked incredible at E3.
That's very cool.
I've been keeping in touch with the developer there. They are working hard, and that game is going to be something else. You've got not one, but two Unreal Engine 5 In Exile RPGs. So again, those are out on the horizon. Double Fine's next game, that's out on the horizon after Psychonauts 2 shipped last year. We know that whatever Double Fine's doing, it's using Unreal Engine 5. Forza Horizon 6, inevitable. That's probably 2024 onwards. And of course, The Elder Scrolls 6 is somewhere out there. It's in pre-production right now. Yeah. And it will go into full production once Starfield does ship in 2023. But yeah, I mean, that's off in the distance. But again, that 2023 that we just went through, that's going to be wild. And that's to say nothing of if some of the 2022 candidates we just talked about slip into 2023, it makes 2023 even better. So next year is going to be insane for Xbox.
I completely agree. You'll just have to hold out. This year is obviously, it's a little quiet, it's a little barren. We're just as bummed as everybody is. Like this, I wanted to play these games. Like this stinks. Just like I wanted to play Breath of the Wild and everything else that got moved. But it is what it is. It's the nature of the pandemic and a million other moving parts happening. Games are bigger than ever. But Ryan, thank you so much for helping me break this stuff down today. Folks, remember the Xbox Bethesda Showcase is on June 12th. So we will definitely see something there. They're doing a show, so they'll have something to show us. Whether or not it's stuff we'll be able to play this year, we don't know yet. But there will be games. And we will be covering every game this year. Not only the ones that release, but the ones that don't release and get delayed forever. So remember, for all things video games, you're already in the right place, and that's IGN. And thank you so much for watching.
Gracias por llegar a Nequiam.
I like Fred and George, so the joke shop, I would probably have the best time because I love telling jokes and pull all the pranks.
You can choose from over 200 career paths that match your passion on GoArmy.com. What's your warrior? Hogwarts Legacy is coming to Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. For more on everything Hogwarts Legacy, keep it here on IGN.
Now let's take a look at the new Saints Row Boss Factory demo, which is free to play now ahead of the full game release on August 23rd.
Guys,
you gotta do something to capture people's attention. So what do we build next?
me.
We are so good at this.
Which fool wanna challenge me? Got a pack on your back with a strap, can't relax cause you know there's no guarantee. I ain't never got that's a fact, don't react to the test of the mass and the cavalry. Stay correct as your man.
Gracias por llegar @tragabolas.
Seriously, this is perfect. Dinner and a show, baby.
Hey everyone, Nars here, giving you a special look at Life Makeover, a social lifestyle simulation game that lets you take your style to the next level wherever you are by taking advantage of Unreal Engine graphics. In Life Makeover, you can create a character and customize their features, then try on thousands of ultra-realistic outfits that make you look and stay fabulous in your photoshoot sessions. From evening gowns, dreamy princess dresses, and tailored suits, Life Makeover gives you the freedom to match your style or try something new. Take care of your in-game character to change their mood, hang out with cute pets, and invite friends over for a party. Once you're ready for the spotlight, customize photoshoot locations like seaside villas, modern cities, rural farmhouses, and more to match your look. And your customization options don't end there. You can even create outfits from scratch in the DIY design suite. Here you can take advantage of preset patterns in the toolbox or add designs of your own to use in your very own creations. This suite simulates the real-world design process from selecting fabrics to pattern design and even cutting. Have a design you can't wait to share with friends? Make it a reality in Life Makeover, and then invite your friends to your in-game home to show off your creation or have a themed party. Life Makeover is brought to you by the award-winning Archisor Games. You may have heard of their other titles like Dragon Raja, the most downloaded 3D next-gen mobile MMORPG in the American App Store, or their upcoming titles Noah's Heart and Avatar Reckoning. Archisor Games is currently exploring new technologies like Unreal Engine 5 to use in their games they release in the future. The current APK game build is currently geared for Asian regions, however, the US and EU regions' features and localizations are being developed. Think you're ready to walk the runway? Then stay tuned because soon I'll be getting a hands-on look at Life Makeover and recreating my very own Summer of Gaming outfit in-game. But first, check out this trailer for Life Makeover and make sure to pre-register to start setting your own fashion trends.
5, 4, 3, 2.
We're out of space.
On it. We're going live.
Unleash the power of the Samsung 980 Pro PCIe 4.0 NVMe SSD for next-level computing and double the data transfer rate of PCIe 3.0. It's 12 times faster than Samsung SATA SSDs, making for a whole new user experience. It's easy to install. Boost your PC performance, load games faster and more reliably, no matter how intensive the workload. The Samsung SSD 980 Pro and 980 Pro with heatsink are proud partners of IGN's Summer of Gaming.
We're good.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
You are go for launch.
Xbox and Bethesda in 2022. With over 25 million Game Pass subscribers and the Series X and S selling faster than any Xbox console has before, Microsoft is riding high. Bethesda might have pushed Starfield and Redfall to next year, but there's plenty more from Xbox Game Studios on the way. Hotly anticipated sequels like Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, The Outer Worlds 2, State of Decay 3, and brand new takes on Perfect Dark and Fable. And there are brand new IPs we're dying to learn more about, like Avowed and Everwild. And hey, can we see some frickin' Elder Scrolls 6 already? Clearly, there's a lot in store from Xbox and Bethesda, and IGN has you covered.
Welcome to IGN's Summer of Gaming and a very special episode of Podcast Unlocked, IGN's weekly Xbox show. Today is Super Bowl Sunday for Xbox fans everywhere. That's because in just a few minutes we'll be getting a brand new presentation from Xbox and Bethesda showcasing all of the big games they've been working on, and it's sure to have some surprises and reveals. Here to help me speculate on just what might those things be are my co-hosts Miranda Sanchez, Stella Chung, and Destin Legary. I missed all of you a lot.
Yeah.
It is so good to be back.
It's so good to be here in person with everyone. We're all at the same table. It's so cool. Finally. Also in the same city since we're all spread out now.
Physically, this is great. It's been a couple of years, but we're back. But before we get started, just a reminder that IGN's Summer of Gaming is going on throughout June. You can find live coverage of all things Summer of Gaming wherever you get your IGN, whether that's IGN.com, Twitch, YouTube, IGN1 on your smart TV, and now you can even watch us on our Steam page, which I guess means you can watch us on a Steam Deck, probably, which would be awesome. Anyway, let's start by talking about Xbox's 2022 so far. It's been a bit of a rough go for Xbox thus far in 2022, after a great 2021. With Halo Infinite, IGN's 2021 Game of the Year, Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2 was a huge hit, nominated for a ton of awards. You had even some exclusives like 12 Minutes and The Medium in there, The Ascent. A lot of great stuff last year, but this year, 4 big delays so far have really cost the Xbox a lot of momentum. We've had Stalker 2 get delayed, replaced, both of those for the absolute worst of reasons with the war in Ukraine. Those are Ukrainian developers. And then Starfield and Redfall also falling off. So 2022, a little rough so far, but Destin, on the hardware and services side, the news is much, much better.
Yeah, we actually got to try out the new Samsung television streaming service that Xbox is going to be offering with Xbox Game Pass. You can play games like Halo, Forza Gears, basically anything that's on Game Pass just on your Samsung television. The technology really, really impressed me. I got a bit of hands-on time. You can go check out that video right now on IGN.com. The latency is barely noticeable, if there at all. And it was just really impressive. I don't know what else to say about it. It felt like I was just playing off a Series X.
That's about the highest compliment you can possibly give that particular scenario. And then Miranda, we've got 25 million Game Pass subscribers. That seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think we talk about Game Pass a lot on the show, and for good reason. Like, there's just so many games, and I kind of think about it in a frame of, if I were a child and I had Game Pass Like,
it would be heaven.
Yeah, exactly.
We had that when we were kids.
Yes, I mean, I know we do talk about it a lot because it is such a good deal. It's like if you have an Xbox, you might as well have Game Pass, unless you don't want to have a bunch of games waiting for you to play constantly and discover. Which is, it's really helpful because like there's so many times like, oh, that looks cool, and I'm like, is it on Game Pass? Yes. Perfect. I'm just going to download it and try it. And I think that's just such a nice thing to have. And like having them expand it in different systems within like Samsung and just other apps and like with cloud gaming, and they're constantly adding more. It just continues to add value to it. And I think it's just a smart play for them to continue to grow it.
And then Stella, Xbox was #1 in revenue in
Hola.
all of Q1 for 2021. So that's the X and the S combined, plus game sales, plus just adding it all up. So things are good on the hardware side, including even now we're going to be getting some demos straight into Game Pass,
which is awesome. Again, we keep talking about how great Game Pass is, but also I want to hit on the Series S and how good that is for people who are traveling, who do have to travel for work. It's just such a nice compact thing that people can just take with them and play anywhere, and it's almost the same exact quality as what you get on the Series X, which is great. So you don't lose much quality. You still get the same amount of playtime and FPS, which is great. So, and then now all these game demos coming out, like if I had a Series S in my hotel
Yo creo que donde lo estoy transmitiendo, loco, para que no haya...
I know, well...
Let's just do that after this.
Okay, all right, cool.
O sea, para que igual reaccionemos a la vez, ¿me entiendes?
Even Microsoft's incentivizing developers to make those demos for Game Pass.
Yeah, so basically what's happening is they're
Yo estoy viendo en IGN, loco. ¿En dónde está transmitiendo Xbox?
Xbox Game Pass for indie developers. They will be compensated for doing this, of course.
¿Y cuál es el canal oficial de Xbox?
Xbox Game Pass service, meaning their games get a little bit more attention
Así se llama.
and promotion,
En YouTube.
and they get compensated for the work of creating that vertical slice.
Bethesda. En el canal de Bethesda, veámoslo ya. Es lo mismo.
Predictions, core like specific predictions here in a few minutes, but what I want to start with now is a more general overarching question. What does Xbox need to do today to have a good showcase? Stella, I'll start with you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Tú tienes hijas chiquitas todavía.
I feel like that's the kind of game that, like screenshots, anything, maybe
¿Qué edad?
a different trailer. I would prefer.
¿Qué edad? Pero pensé que era más chiquita, la que está hablando. ¿Tienes abierto el sonido de nosotros en nuestros micrófonos? Me aviso. Hola.
Estamos ready.
Voy a abrir cámara.
No me quedé otra vez. Ya estamos listos.
Hola.
Adelante, Time.
Sí tienes cómo sacar las cámaras, ¿verdad?
Sí, en eso estoy. Es que se me está tragando. Creo que tengo un disco malo.
Porque no hay nada que tu computadora esté trabajando bastante ahorita, ¿eh?
Sí.
O por el momento cierra lo que tengas abierto, yo qué sé.
Sí, todo se hace. Mira.
Escucha bien mi micrófono, ¿verdad? Sí, se escucha claro. De pronto puedes difuminar hacia el fondo, como yo lo tengo puesto. Si quieres, claro, no sé. Esto sí era hasta la hora. Te lo pones encima del hook. No, te pasaste, loco. Te voy a haber tomado una foto. Ay, Dios mío. Te digo que puedes difuminar el fondo así, en Discord. Entonces, subieron los requisitos incluso en PC.
Bien, en esta hora me acompaña mi amigo Time. Me estaba contando lo de Resident Evil. Cuéntale a la gente, ya estamos. Hoy sí salimos, arreglamos el problema de la cámara.
Sí, estaba mencionando que en el champús es informático. Acabo de ver una noticia en donde las versiones de Resident Evil 7, el 2 Remake y el 3 Remake van a también hacer Next Gen. Entonces van a tener tecnología de Ray Tracing, trazado de rayos y demás cosas. Entonces yo espero con ansias el juego. Yo soy un gran fanático de los remakes. El Resident Evil 2 es mi videojuego favorito y el 7 también es uno de mis favoritos. Entonces los estoy esperando con ansia. Bueno, yo ya lo tengo comprado hace mucho tiempo para PlayStation 4. De hecho, como tengo mi PlayStation 5, voy a upgradear y jugarlo ahí. No tengo necesidad de comprarlo en PC ni en ninguna otra plataforma, porque hasta donde yo sé, el update es gratuito, ¿no? Para los que ya tienen el juego.
Ok.
Pero me parece interesante porque siendo un juego que juega con mucha iluminación y siendo de terror, se va a ver espectacular.
Me imagino que sí. Yo espero de que... Ah, ok. Pero si el Resident Evil 8 te consumía bastante recurso, imagínate cuánto te va a consumir esto, que es de nueva generación.
O sea, de hecho, el Resident Evil 2 Remake en PC, en Ultra, uff.
Está súper botado.
Consumía mucho, estaba chetadísimo el juego.
Sí, yo tenía que bajarlo bastante. Yo tenía que bajarlo bastante en la PC para poder transmitir ese juego. Esa es la verdad. Uf,
Sí, claro.
¿qué esperas
O sea,
de este evento?
yo tampoco no.
Cuéntame, ¿qué esperas de este evento?
Bueno, yo te soy sincero, no espero sorprenderme
Arroba
con nada,
DR Diego,
pero
el éxito
sí
está
quiero
y
ver
seis.
juegos que ya anunciaron el año anterior.
¿Cómo cuáles?
Como por ejemplo, estaba viendo yo unos teasers del año pasado de Atomic Heart.
Ok.
Sí te ubicas con ese juego,
Sí.
¿verdad?
Sí.
Te cuento que ese juego me trae mucho el rollo de BioShock.
Correcto.
Y de Fallout. Entonces a mí me interesa mucho ese juego, porque gráficamente también se ve espectacular. Yo creo que el nivel visual está casi como el Callisto Protocol.
Hablando de Callisto Protocol, ¿qué te parece ese juego? Lo que has visto.
Es un espectáculo. Es un espectáculo visual ese juego. Y siendo más un survival horror tipo Dead Space, que incluso es de los creadores del mismo, yo creo que la va a pegar cualquier cantidad. O sea, va a ser... Desde ya te anticipo que ese juego va a ser un juego de culto para toda la fanaticada del survival horror.
Ahora, se ve mejor que Dead Space, el remake.
Que ese Dead Space remake, yo siento que solamente es una timadera de plata, porque no le veo nada interesante, de verdad. Actualmente yo juego en mi computadora el Dead Space original con todos los gráficos en ultra y se ve bien también. O sea, no.
Eso está como el remake que le están haciendo al Príncipe de Persia.
Que va retrasado de paso porque va por mal camino, o sea.
O sea, lo que
yo considero que un remake es un juego nuevo.
Correcto.
Es un juego nuevo con la esencia del original. Entonces, tú sabes que para mí el mejor remake de la historia es el Resident Evil 2.
Habría que esperar el Resident Evil 4 que van a sacar ahorita.
O sea, si hacen las cosas bien, podría ser el mejor remake de la historia ya el Resident Evil 4. Pero actualmente para mí es el Resident Evil 2 remake.
No, claro.
¿Por qué? Porque toda la esencia del juego original de PlayStation 1 lo plasmaron exacto, con unos gráficos abrumantes. Porque el Resident Evil 2 tiene unos gráficos abrumantes.
Yo espero.
Increíble.
Yo espero que no suceda lo que sucedió con el Resident Evil 3. Que cortaron la campaña al máximo. Y sacaron cosas interesantes del juego.
De hecho, sí, loco. O sea, que hayan quitado la escena de la torre del reloj fue un desacierto total.
Sí, o sea, y varias cosas.
Una de las partes más interesantes eran esas. Y de hecho también sacaron otras cosas que... O sea... No supieron plasmar. Yo creo que el remake del Resident Evil 3 fue algo apresurado. Yo creo que Capcom vio que le fue muy bien con el Resident Evil 2 remake y como no tenía espacios para llenar entre juegos y entre temporadas, decidieron hacer un remake rápido con el mismo motor gráfico, con todo lo mismo y lanzarlo como pueda. Recuerda que el Resident Evil 2 remake con el Resident Evil 3 remake, en cuestión de fechas de lanzamiento, salieron con un año nomás de diferencia.
Sí,
exactamente un año.
Un año.
Entonces, en un año tú no sacas un buen producto.
Ahora, en el Resident Evil 4 sí se han tardado bastante en sacarlo.
Ahora, yo te digo una cosa. Había un rumor de algunas páginas de videojuegos que el Resident Evil 3 Remake iba a tener un contenido descargable e iba a tener una nueva edición donde estaban los cortes, como una especie de cortes del director, donde ya habían incluido el tema de la torre del reloj y todas las escenas que habían cortado. Decía que incluso se había filtrado la portada en Amazon, de esa nueva versión de Resident Evil 3. Ahora, te digo, si sacan un Resident Evil 3 Remake como un director cut, un corte del director, con todas las escenas que no estuvieron, gráficamente el juego es espectacular, visualmente, sonoramente es espectacular. Solamente faltan las escenas y que amplíen la historia. Va a ser un espectáculo.
Sí. Yo le tengo mucha fe a este Resident Evil que va a salir ahorita. Al 4 Remake. A ver qué pasa.
Yo también, porque ya de por sí el 4 es uno de los Resident Evil más largos que existe, más extenso que existe.
El 4 salvó la franquicia.
Claro, entonces no deben hacer nada ni tocar nada. O sea, si ellos no quieren, si ellos no quisieran cambiar nada, no tienen por qué cambiar nada.
Correcto.
Pero bueno, si le añaden más cosas, si extienden la campaña, estamos hablando de que ese juego podría durar tranquilamente unas 20 horas de historia.
Oh, sí.
Podría ser uno de los Resident Evil más largos de la historia, te cuento.
¿Cuánto tardó Resident Evil? ¿Cuánto tardó Resident Evil 7 y 8? Que son los últimos.
Todos los Resident Evil tienen una duración de no más de 9 o 10 horas.
Eso me tardé yo en...
El Resident Evil 2 Remake tarda un poco más, alrededor de unas 14, porque acuérdate que está la historia de Leon y de Claire. ¿No? Pero cada campaña, por primera vez al jugarla, dura entre unas 8 a 9 horas. Entonces estaríamos hablando de que alguien que no tiene tanta experticia en juegos de terror podría terminarlo en unas 16 horas. Yo lo terminé como en unas 13 o 14, creo.
Y
la
gusta.
Primera vez que lo jugué.
Y sale satisfecho, ¿eh? Sí, y sale...
Entonces no duraba más. El Resident Evil Village, que fue el último que salió, creo que debe haber durado unas 8 horas. No puede haber durado más.
8 horas.
No sé si tú recuerdas,
9.
porque tú estás más fresco.
9 horas. Bueno, en 9 horas yo lo pasé.
Por eso, no puede durar más. No puede durar más.
Yo me tardé 9 horas. Creo.
Ahora, yo recuerdo el Resident Evil 4. La primera vez que lo pasé fue en PlayStation 2. Y el juego es bastante largo.
Quiero decirle...
Cada vez que tú creías que ibas a terminar, pasaba algo más.
A la gente de Xbox, quiero decirles que... Bueno, a mí me llegó un sobre de $10. Está regalando dinero Xbox. Cada vez que vienen estos eventos está regalando dinero. Tienen hasta el 16 de este mes para hacerlo canjeable. Yo ya tengo más o menos lo que voy a comprar, pero si anuncian algo espectacular, lo voy a canjear. $10 están regalando ahorita para que la gente pueda comprar lo que quiera. O sea, no es como los cupones de Steam o de Epic que te dan, o sea, $10 de descuento. No, estos $10, con estos $10 tú puedes comprar lo que tú quieras. Y si quieres comprar algo más, puedes invertir los $10 que ellos te dan.
Mira qué interesante, loco.
Sí, está muy bueno, está muy bueno. Y vamos a ver qué me puedo comprar. Estamos a poco menos de 10 minutos. Yo espero ver Starfield. Espero ver Contraband, Above. Y me siento servido. Y me siento servido. No espero ver Indiana Jones, y si lo sacan, me sorprendería. De igual forma me sorprendería si te sacan un... ¿Cómo se llama? Un Gears. Si te sacan un Gears, yo me sorprendería.
También yo.
¿Sabes qué juego sí me gustaría que le dieran una segunda oportunidad? A Rise to Rome. La caída de Roma.
Te cuento que yo nunca jugué ese juego, pero gráficamente
es un espectáculo. Yo no sé por qué ese juego no triunfó. Yo te soy sincero, no lo sé.
Yo creo que tuvo el mal que le pasó a The Order 1882.
El juego exclusivo de...
Para mí siempre esos dos juegos han sido sus contrapartes. Rise con The Order.
Sí.
The Order gráficamente era bueno, pero el juego por dentro era una porquería.
¿Sí?
O sea,
pero sí, está muy chulo el juego. Para ser honesto, me gusta mucho. Yo lo tengo para PC. Lo compré en Steam en una rebaja. Dicho sea de paso, junto con ese juego venían los 3 príncipes de Persia, los 3 originales. Por unos, creo que eran como por $5. Todos esos juegos por $5. Solo para que tengas un paneo de lo que más o menos está. Así que, gente de Xbox está regalando $10. Vayan a su mensajería, los canjean y pueden comprar lo que ustedes quieran. El Game Pass está a $1 5 meses.
¿What?
$1.
¿El Ultimate o el normal?
El Ultimate. $1 5 meses.
Creer.
¿Sí? Yo usé ese dinero. Yo usé $1 de ese dinero para comprarlo. Me quedan $7. Puedes comprarlo con ese mismo dinero. Lo tengo allá en la Xbox. ya comprado. Y cada vez que ponen esto Game Pass así es porque va a salir un gran juego. Yo estoy disfrutando mucho ¿cómo se llama? Este juego de Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Origins, lo estoy jugando. Lo jugué en PC.
Yo te voy a hacer una consulta también. Porque yo me lo estaba barajando. Yo ya pasé el Origins y de hecho lo tengo en mi cuenta de Xbox. Pero como tú sabes que actualmente yo no tengo una consola. Y los juegos de Xbox comprados que no son de Game Pass no se pueden jugar en PC. No hay esa migración. Que debería haberlo, Debería, pero no lo hay. Entonces, los tengo en descuento en la Store de PlayStation. Está en $8. ¿Tú crees que valga la pena, loco?
Ese juego vale la pena. La historia
porque
que
porque ya tiene parche de 60 FPS.
Sí, claro. Vale la pena.
4K.
Vale la pena. Yo te digo, vale la pena. Vale la pena. Así como va a valer la pena descargar Fall Guys, que va a ser free to play el 21 de este mes.
Ahora sí, pues. Ahora sí.
Yo
estuve totalmente contrario. Y tú sabes que yo fui contradictorio totalmente de haber comprado ese juego cuando salió.
No, yo también. Y yo lo tengo en PlayStation porque me lo regalaron. Pero no lo juego.
Yo jamás lo hubiera comprado.
Pero sí lo.
Ahora sí, claro, con amigos.
Claro, ahora sí lo voy a jugar en PC.
Free to play,
free
toda
to play,
la cosa,
claro,
¿no?
claro que sí.
No, podría jugarlo en cualquier parte, en tu Xbox, en PC, en cualquier
Sí,
parte podría jugarlo.
Creo que hasta en mi Nintendo Switch lo voy a poder jugar, ¿verdad? ¿O no va a salir por ahí?
Sí, va a salir para Switch también.
Sí. Lo voy a poder jugar en cualquier lado. Ahorita estamos pensando en conseguirme la Xbox Series X. Estoy en eso. Está muy barata en mi país, bajó bastante.
Yo creo que para todo lo que tú haces, la X te vendría mejor.
Sí, es que.
Y te recomendaría que compres juegos físicos.
¿Sí?
Yo te recomendaría.
Sí, porque cuando te cierran el servidor, hasta ahí llegaste.
De hecho, yo ahorita con la PlayStation con disco estoy comprando juegos físicos en su mayoría solamente. Conviene más.
Sí, claro.
Conviene más, definitivamente.
Claro, porque también está la reventa y toda la cosa.
Exactamente, lo consigue barato. El Ratchet & Clank yo lo conseguí súper barato. En la Store vale 70, lo conseguí en 30. Entonces.
Yo en la Play 4 que tengo, todos los juegos que tengo son físicos. La mayoría de juegos digitales los tengo en la Xbox. Y tengo un disco duro de la Xbox donde ya tengo todos los juegos de mi catálogo instalados. Por cualquier eventualidad.
Yo creo que particularmente juegos digitales en Xbox, los de Game Pass.
Los de Game Pass. Posible.
Pero cuando tú quieres comprarte algo que de verdad te interese, yo creo que si tienes la serie X o vas a tenerla, debe ser algo físico.
Calixto Protocol lo quiero jugar en la computadora. Es que debo tener la pantalla más cerca. Eso.
Claro.
Entonces.
No, pero, o sea, de hecho ese juego en una pantalla grande debe verse espectacular también.
Gracias por llegar a @me pica el derecho.
Pues sí, perdón. Estaba mi mamá buscándome que me quería dar comida.
Bueno, ya estamos a 4 minutos.
Sí. Te digo, el Calixto Protocol lo quiero en la PC.
Yo espero ver un Atomic Heart.
¿Qué otro juego?
Pero de verdad que... ¿Quieres que te diga una cosa? Yo quisiera... Yo sé que es algo improbable, pero quisiera ver un nuevo Fallout.
Oye, ¿te imaginas un Fallout New Vegas?
Quisiera ver un Fallout nuevo, loco. Y de hecho, yo no creo que Xbox, ahora que tiene a Bethesda, no esté pensando o esté desarrollando un nuevo Fallout.
No, ya eso. Me imagino que después de Starfield ese es el proyecto que se viene.
Es que Fallout es una franquicia que vende sola.
Oh, el juego de Hideo Kojima de terror.
Ah, eso lo van a presentar porque de hecho Hideo Kojima creo que va a estar en este showcase.
Es de Xbox ese juego, ¿verdad? El nuevo.
Yo creo que sí. O sea, es que si va a estar él aquí, quiere decir que tiene exclusividad.
Va a ser como un
O han hecho algún pacto.
Va a ser como un Death
Pero
Stranding.
Yo te digo una cosa, Kojima, juegos de terror, el tipo tiene tostado el cerebro,
Sí. ¿Viste? ¿Jugaste la demo de PT?
Sí, claro que sí. Lo jugué algunas veces.
¿Cuánto duró? Como media hora duraba esa vaina, ¿verdad?
Sí, pero esa demo duró como 1 hora, pero duele toda la vida.
Sí. Es la mejor demo jamás creada. Jamás creada. A ver qué nos presentan. O sea, yo sí me siento decepcionado con Starfield para el 2023. Con Redfall también.
Redfall.
O sea, se ve bueno. El Redfall se ve muy bueno. Muy bueno. Espero que tengan mejoras para Halo. Halo me tiene decepcionado. No sé si a ti también te pasó eso.
Sí, totalmente. Porque yo estaba muy tryhard con el tema del multiplayer. Me estaba dedicando mucho. Pero me ha decepcionado totalmente. Yo veo una desganez de parte de 343 Industries. No sé qué le pasa a Microsoft. No sé por qué la subdivisión de Xbox no le está llamando la atención. No sé, pero era un juego multiplayer que tenía para ganarle a todo el mundo, incluso a Warzone, y se quedó en nada. Y está totalmente parado. A cada rato y a cada instante liberándose de más y más usuarios de que ya no les gusta. Con malos pases de batalla extendidos durísimos. Y no, o sea, todo está mal.
Sí.
Todo está mal. Me gustaría que hicieran algo que reventara la mesa, pero a estas alturas es un poco complicado,
Igual, lo puede hacer. Sí me sorprendería que dijeran, amigos, hemos cerrado el trato ya con Activision Blizzard, ya pertenece a nosotros y estos son los juegos que van a ir. ¿Te imaginas esa bomba? O sea, no va a pasar. No va a pasar. Pero si pasara, solo ahí se comieron todo el evento. O que digan que van a comprar a Warner, porque Warner anda loco buscando quien la compre.
Yo te digo una cosa, para mí probablemente sí pueda pasar eso,
¿Tú crees?
Y que digan que el Modern Warfare 2, el nuevo Call of Duty, va a salir para Game Pass día 1.
Va a ver.
Eso
va a enfermar a un
revienta la internet. Solo eso revienta la internet.
Va a enfermar a un montón de gente. 40 segundos prácticamente ya.
Pues bueno, yo considero que el evento del año pasado fue bueno,
Buenísimo. Él fue el E3.
Porque dieron fechas, dieron todo, pero a la final no se terminó concretando
por
porque
llegar
juegos
@DR
como
Diego.
Stalker no ha salido, como Redfall retrasado, como
Stalker no se retrasó por la guerra.
Yo no creo que sea eso de verdad, o sea,
es que es ucraniano el estudio. El estudio que lo está haciendo es ucraniano.
O sea, no sé, yo creo que hay mucha gente que se está ocultando detrás de la guerra sin ánimo de ofender a nadie.
Vámonos pues. Empezamos.
Vamos a ver.
Una señora. Hable, señora. Oh, Time. Lenguaje inclusivo.
¿Estamos viendo lo mismo o
Sí, sí.
está adelantado a lo tuyo?
No, estamos viendo lo mismo. Una señora que va a hablar. Esto es Redfall. Sí, es.
Okay.
Oh, qué bueno lo que hizo Xbox, ¿sí?
Redfall.
Esto es
Redfall.
Redfall. Esto es gameplay. Sí, es gameplay. ¿Cómo lo ves? ¿Cómo ves el gameplay?
No, gráficamente está hermoso, loco.
Esto es gameplay time. Oh, mira la sangre en la puerta.
Sí, ahí hay ray tracing.
Mira.
Bueno, hay unas cositas que no me gustan.
Sí.
Hay unos dientes de sierra medio tontos. Pero en general se ve muy bien, la iluminación se ve espectacular.
Al personaje no lo va. Ok.
Si te das cuenta de la iluminación,
Sí.
Full ray tracing aquí.
Sí. Ella no ha visto lo que hay al frente de ella, ¿verdad?
¿Será Redfall? Yo creo que es Redfall.
Sí, es Redfall.
Es un vampiro.
¿Qué tiene los ojos ese tipo? Tiene todos los ojos negros, Time.
Sí. Está muy bueno el juego, pero no, terror no es.
No, terror no es. No, es como un Back 4 Blood, esa vaina. Terror
exactamente,
no es.
sí.
Terror no es. El juego es acción.
Pero está bueno,
¡Epa!
Está entretenido bastante. Y los gráficos, te das cuenta la mezcla de iluminación que están cuando se iluminan.
Sí, es Redfall.
Se desintegran.
Sí, sí, sí.
Está bueno,
Sí, sí, sí.
O sea, que tú me enseñes esto y me digas que va a salir recién el otro año, a mí me llena de coraje.
Sí. ¡Upa! Mira, 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 mira.
Fast forward, basically everyone's either a vampire, a cultist trying to become a vampire, or dead.
Está muy bueno,
And these aren't
Sí.
just trashy movie vampires. These
Estos sí son vampiros.
Sí, estos son vampiros.
No es Crepúsculo, no.
Posible, posible.
Estos son vampiros de verdad, loco. ¿Te acuerdas la serie de Buffy y la Cazavampiros?
Sí, claro.
Estos vampiros se parecen a esta serie.
¡Oh, está ahí! ¡Vas a matar gente! Vas a pelear contra gente también, mira. No solo contra vampiros.
O sea, de hecho yo creo que esta nota es un multijugador masivo también, aparte de la historia. O sea, gráficamente está muy bueno,
Sí, claro.
O sea, cada personaje tiene sus habilidades, como Valorant.
¡Opa! Lo que estamos viendo es gameplay.
Sí, puro gameplay. Aunque hay unas texturas que no me terminan de convencer.
Sí, claro, claro, sí, yo también he visto algunas que no.
No sé si. O sea, la iluminación está bien, que está a 60 FPS está bien. Todo,
Mira
todo
esto,
está increíble.
mira eso. Esto es gameplay.
Ok.
Hasta aquí sabemos que no solamente nos vamos a partir con los vampiros, sino que también con la gente. Con seres humanos.
Hay facciones de humanos.
Bastante sigilo, ¿tá?
Me sorprende.
¡Oh!
Eso, loco.
¿Qué es eso?
Está bueno, está bueno el juego. No es genérico, o sea, tiene bastantes mecánicas autónomas.
Lo que sí miro, que es un poco lento son los vampiros. No sé si es mi percepción. O me imagino que van a venir llegando por hordas y hordas y hordas.
Tells me there's a nest nearby. Your what?
Dev, that's not a thing.
Found some. Oh, now I simply must go in there.
What is that? Where does it go?
Some kind of collective consciousness. That's impossible.
There's the movie theater. I used to come here all the time. Why'd they have to mess this up for me?
Mira la iluminación ahí. Oye, veo bastante escenario, Time. Bastante lugar donde te va a llevar.
Definitivamente es como Back 4 Blood.
Claro. ¡Epa! ¿Viste el águila de Valorant? Día 1 en Game Pass.
Está bueno, loco. Me gusta.
Ah, va a salir en Steam también.
Me disgusta el hecho de que esté retrasado.
A mí también, pero lo que
Porque
vi...
bien podría ser un juego que podríamos haber jugado estas navidades. ¡Ah, Simpson!
Estos juegos son difíciles, Time. Se miran así feos y sencillos. Pero son
Sí, pero
súper difíciles.
hace mucho tiempo ya. Esto es la clara muestra de que Silson va a salir en Game Pass día 1 también. Este era un rumor que se venía trayendo desde hace tiempo, ¿eh? Parece que Microsoft ha llegado a un acuerdo para que Silson aparezca en día 1 en Game Pass. El original Hollow Knight es muy difícil, ¿eh?
Sí, claro.
Este juego es hermoso. Es como un juego creado por Tim Burton.
Sí me gustaría jugarlo en la Nintendo Switch. No sé si está para Nintendo Switch.
El Hollow Knight y este de aquí también, los dos.
Es que tienes la pantalla más cerca.
Sí, de hecho yo lo tuve para Nintendo Switch y es ideal.
¡Ah!
¿Sí ves?
Game Pass.
Game Pass. Estaban ciertos los rumores, qué bueno
Sí.
que se juega.
Día
así en
1.
Game Pass, de verdad.
Día
Me
1
alegro
Game
mucho.
Pass. World Premiere
World
Time.
Premiere,
Vamos a ver.
uf. Console exclusive.
¿Qué? ¿Qué es
¿En
eso?
serio, loco?
¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué es esto?
Parece un juego de Jim Lombriz, de los creadores.
¡Ricky Morty! Sí, eso estoy viendo. ¿Qué es eso?
Esa voz es de Morty, la voz del creador. No.
¿Qué es esto? Oye, Time, ¿pero se ve?
Esto está muy loco,
Sí. Se ve bueno, ¿sí?
Es como un Ricky Morty fortificado.
¿Qué carajos?
¿Qué es esto, Dios?
Oye, pero sí me ha gustado lo que he visto de esa cosa.
Uy, pero mira los gráficos.
Sí.
Es lo más hermosamente bizarro
¡Oh!
que he visto en mi puta vida.
Hola Daniel Benítez, gracias por estar con nosotros acá con el tío Time. Qué gusto. Mira los osos, mira los osos. Mira la cara de los osos.
¿Qué mierda es esto?
Oye, Time, yo quiero eso.
Estoy extrañamente perturbado.
High of Life, Noche de Vida.
Esto es tremendo juego, Esto es tremendo juego. Y va a salir ahorita.
¡Ahorita va a salir! Día 1 en Game Pass.
What the fuck.
Ok.
¿Qué acabo de ver? No,
For the
loco.
first time ever, our entire show is focused on games you can play over the next 12 months. You're going to see more gameplay than we've ever had in a show.
Dice que va a tener bastante gameplay en este show. Cero paja, cero hablar tanto,
Compelling strategy titles. And my favorite, the most anticipated open world RPG of the last 20 years. All playable in the year ahead.
Esa fue la que dijo que Starfield era exclusivo y a todo mundo le dolió eso. Esa fue la que dijo, Time.
Sí, todos la odian ahora. Porque se retrasó.
Dice que están buscando la forma de que todo el mundo juega sus juegos, ya sea en teléfono, PC, ahora voy a salir en Samsung.
Sí, en Gaming Hood.
Shows that the benefits of Game Pass go well beyond the console. We are thrilled to be working with an iconic team that has built some of the most played, most watched.
Que me encanta que incluyan a las mujeres en esto, ¿sí? Me encanta bastante.
Es muy bueno, sí. Esta es la verdadera inclusividad que debería haber.
Correcto. ¿Qué?
Para móviles.
¿Riot Games? ¡Oh, Time! ¿Será Valorant?
Valorant. No creo, no, es imposible.
Today, we're proud to invite the Xbox community into that world. We're bringing our biggest PC and mobile games to Game Pass. Subscribers will unlock every champion on League and Wild Rift, all Valorant agents.
¡Time! ¡Esos juegos vienen para Xbox!
Little Legends and Teamfight Tactics.
¡Time! ¡Todos esos juegos vienen para Xbox!
No creo que Valorant venga para Xbox.
¡Vienen para Xbox, dijo!
No. ¡No! ¡No! ¡Va a salir! Valorant salió. No, loco. ¿Qué es eso?
Ahora, si Valorant sale para Xbox, yo lo juego.
¡Ese es Valorant!
Time, si Valorant sale para Xbox, yo lo juego.
El personaje que viste de primero es de Valorant. No, ¿qué es esta?
League of
Vamos a
Legends.
calmarnos primeramente. Vamos a respirar.
No, pero
vamos a procesar.
a ver,
¿Qué están haciendo, hermano?
el tipo dijo que poco a poco iban a ir incluyendo estos juegos a Xbox.
¿Pero por cloud o para descargarlos?
Para descargarlos.
Si Valorant sale en Xbox... No, yo no sé qué voy a hacer, loco.
Bien, nuevos campeones.
O sea, van a sacar todos los juegos en Xbox.
Si te tiran gameplay de Valorant, alistate.
No creo que vayan a sacar gameplay de Valorant en Xbox. Pero es que no veo nada. Solamente enseñan los juegos.
De sobremesa, sí.
Valorant, pero ¿dónde dice que está para Xbox?
Cálmate. Pero no tiene razón de que estén presentando Valorant si ya está en PC. En un evento de Xbox.
O sea, el chiste sea que lo muestren en consola.
Estos juegos vienen para Xbox.
¿Tú sabes lo que significa eso, loco?
¡Ahí está! ¡Mira! ¡Ahí está, ve! ¡PC!
No, para PC y móvil. No, es por cloud.
Es por cloud, sí, es por cloud.
Es por cloud. No, ya no es demasiado, loco.
Oye, pero es muy bueno.
No, claro, ¿cómo no?
Opa. Focus entre.
A Blacktail. A Blacktail 2.
Oye, Time, ¿cómo se ve? ¡Mira el agua! Yo quiero, ya quiero que este juego salga.
Este juego también le tengo ganas ya.
Mira esos gráficos, Time. O sea, el tipo hablando en señas de lenguas, eso se llama inclusión, no esos colores. Eso es inclusión, gente. ¿Qué onda con esas ratas? ¿Siguen fastidiando las ratas? ¿Cómo cambió la luz, sí?
Making it worse. Amicia, don't. I'm tired of being afraid. I'll show them that it's over. Finally. See, they're nothing to be scared of.
O sea, se ve hermoso, loco. ¿Sí ves el efecto de las ratas?
Sí. O sea, ese juego se ve.
Es una película, ¿eh? Te cuento que yo no terminé el primero. Porque es difícil. Hugo.
Oye, ¿puedes controlar las ratas? Día 1 en Game Pass, mi hermano.
Ah, este año va a estar, mira, este juego sí es un juego que yo también espero,
Día 1 en Game Pass. ¿Qué más viene? Xbox Game Studio Plus. ¡Oh! Un juego de Xbox. ¡Oh! ¡Mira! Bueno, esto es cinemática. Quiero ver gameplay.
Uy, ¿qué es esto? Uy, sus gráficos. ¿Te lo dije o no te lo dije? Iban a presentar Forza Motorsport. Este es un juego obligatorio para llenar el catálogo de este año.
Sí.
Ese juego va a salir este año en noviembre, acuérdate de mí. Uy, mira eso. El Ray Tracing está vivito aquí, Mira, yo te digo una cosa, yo no soy muy amante de los simuladores de carros. Y de hecho, el Forza Horizon me gusta porque es arcade.
Correcto.
Pero se ve hermoso, loco. Ahora, si tú me preguntas Gran Turismo o Forza Motorsport, Forza Motorsport.
Claro.
Gráficamente le da 10-1 a Gran Turismo esto, ¿eh?
Ah, 2023.
No, se fue para el otro año.
No, pues que no tenía fecha de salida para este año.
2023, pero yo pensé que era de este año que le iban a sacar.
No tiene fecha de salida. Y no tiene ni
Me-
fecha. Aquí. Ha vuelto, dice.
Es que yo te lo digo, los Forza, tanto los Horizon como el Motorsport, para Xbox son como los FIFA en PlayStation 4 y en PlayStation 5. Entonces, es algo con lo que llenan el catálogo y lo hacen de buena manera porque igual el juego es bueno.
Claro, y vende.
Sumitos, gracias por estar aquí, Sumitos, gracias.
Today, we're excited to show you the all-new Forza Motorsport.
Gameplay. Mira el agua, esto es gameplay.
Mira, date cuenta del efecto del reflejo en el agua. Y las partículas de rayos de luz. Aquí hay mucho RTX, ¿eh?
What you are seeing is an in-engine gameplay demo presented using a single camera with no cuts.
Gameplay, vamos a...
Está hermoso el juego.
Mira los reflejos de la luz sobre el carro.
Por este juego yo me suscribo a Game Pass de ley, ¿no? Es que es un simulador, este simulador, esto no es como el Horizon, ¿eh?
No, este es un simulador, correcto.
Es un simulador. Estas son carreras profesionales puras y duras.
Upa, mira el pavimento,
El asfalto. Uy. ¿Viste? ¿Estás viendo el asfalto?
Sí, eso estaba viendo. Está desgastado. Upa, time.
Brutal, ¿eh?
Horizon, Forza, ¿cómo se llamaba? Forza Motorsport. Está igualito a Forza.
O sea, si el Horizon se veía bien, el de acá se ve 1000 veces mejor.
Time. Te están enseñando todo lo malo que tenía el Forza Motorsport. Perdón, ¿cómo se llamaba el del PlayStation?
Horizon.
El Horizon.
Perdón, el Gran Turismo.
El Gran Turismo, perdón. Sí, perdón, mil disculpas. Te están enseñando todo lo malo que tenía ese juego. Te lo están enseñando acá.
Mira el cielo en las nubes.
La gente está viva, Time.
Es un mundo totalmente vivo, loco. Mira las sombras. No. En cambio de noche a día. No, está increíble esto, ¿eh? Está increíble. Esto gráficamente la rompe, loco.
No lo va a correr mi PC. No lo va a levantar. Ocupa una
Yo
tarjeta.
creo que la mía de pronto sí.
Ocupa una tarjeta de video más potente para esto.
Wow.
Mira los detalles, Time. Los detalles en cada cosa.
Oye, ¿a dónde hemos llegado? ¿Cómo hemos avanzado tanto, loco? Hace 38 años estábamos con Nintendo. Mira,
¿Le viste las llantas a ese carro todas llenas de piedras?
Mira el motor, Keto.
Gente, las llantas de estos carros son lisas. No esperen rayas ni nada.
Cualquier cantidad de ray tracing.
¡Ah!
¡Uf!
¡Oh! Mira cómo quedó.
Mira la destrucción de los carros, mira, fíjate.
You can see here some of the new details in the directionality of damage, how the paint peels away at exposed and raised edges, in the wheel abrasions, and even in the dirt buildup.
Es muy bueno.
Mira el pavimento.
Mira el reflejo de los carros.
Ese carro está rayado. El carro está rayado. ¿Sí ves que está golpeado el carro por encima?
Claro. Esto es una locura, parece una película. Parece una película filmada en stop motion.
efficiency of our overhauled physics, the beauty of our cars and tracks.
Mira el agua. Mira el agua. Mira el agua.
Están locos, de verdad.
Mira la física del agua.
Estos tipos están locos.
Is the all-new Forza Motorsport.
No.
Están locos.
Yo no esperaba ver esto de este juego. Esperaba ver un poco menos. Si te soy sincero, yo esperaba ver menos de este juego. Gráficamente. Pero lo que te mostraron es el gameplay de Opa, otro Xbox Game Studio. Microsoft.
La más grande franquicia. 40 años. ¿Qué franquicia de Microsoft tiene 40 años? Helicópteros.
Flight Simulator. Flight Simulator creo que es. Es Flight Simulator.
Ah. ¿Van a sacar alguna expansión nueva?
Me imagino.
Ah, el avión de los hermanos Kraft. Wright, perdón. Los hermanos Wright.
Este juego, este simulador es una belleza. O sea,
van a sacar aviones antiguos.
No hay nada que se compare a este juego.
No. Este juego gráficamente también es...
Sí. Son como 200 gigas que pesa este juego en realidad. Mira el turbo. Uf. Este juego no necesita ya presentación. Yo creo que este juego no necesita más presentación.
Tú sabes que con este juego le enseñan a conducir a los pilotos que están aprendiendo, ¿verdad?
Sí. Es que todo es real. Si te equivocas, mueres. En este juego, si te equivocas, mueres.
Mira, es hermoso.
El cielo te llama, Time. 40 aniversario. Noviembre 22.
Parece que van a sacar una reedición, ¿no?
No, esa... O sea,
Esto es una cosa de otro calibre ya. Starfield, ¿no?
No.
¡Ah, mira! ¡Oh! ¡No!
¿Sí viste, verdad? La nave del jefe maestro. ¡Tan, tan, tan, tan! ¿Te imaginas ir con la nave del jefe maestro encima de Barcelona y todo? ¡Oh! Hasta el espacio.
¿Te imaginas conducir eso, loco? No.
Va a ser gratis.
Hoy día está disponible.
Sí. Va a ser gratis.
Están locos, de verdad.
¿Qué te ha parecido hasta aquí? Hasta aquí.
Sí, ha tenido buen ritmo, loco. Blizzard.
¿Qué? ¿Overwatch 2?
Ah, esto es Overwatch.
¿Esperabas ver algo de Blizzard acá?
No, loco.
Yo
me había olvidado
tampoco.
que Blizzard es de Xbox. Yo me había olvidado que Blizzard es de Xbox.
Yo no esperaba ver nada.
Ojito que sí, que Blizzard esté en este showcase quiere decir que ya está efectivizada la compra de todo, ¿eh? ¿Será que vemos que el nuevo Call of Duty va a salir día 1?
¡Time! Se van a morir un montón de periodistas.
No, ahí va a salir Overwatch.
¿En octubre?
Día 1 en Game Pass. Esto ya de por sí no es cualquier cosa que esté pasando.
¿Free to play? ¿Free to play?
Le llega un buen concursante a Valorant, ¿eh? Porque Free to Play está aquí, ¿eh?
Sí.
Está bello, loco.
Yo lo voy a bajar, Time. En cuanto esté Free to Play, yo lo bajo y nos ponemos a jugar.
Yo siempre he querido jugar, sino que como era pagado.
¿Cuándo? El 4 de octubre, Time.
2022.
Oh, pero Overwatch 2. ¿Qué?
Es el 2, pues claro, es el 2. Pero no dijeron que iba a salir para...
No dijeron nada.
Para consolas,
Más Blizzard, más cosas de Blizzard. Ya me estoy emocionando, Ya van muchas cosas de Blizzard.
Pero esto es Overwatch también. Esto es Overwatch también, creo.
No es Overwatch.
¿Estás seguro?
No.
King Howell has never lost. Not in 13 years of rule. On the battlefield. Not until today. Did you really think this would be a fair fight?
¿Qué es esto? ¿Continuará?
Es
Es Overwatch.
¡Ay, consolas! ¡Consolas! ¡Overwatch en consola! En Xbox. Eso es horrenda noticia.
Xbox Game Studio.
Yo creo que va a salir en Game Pass, loco, pero no lo han anunciado como tal,
¿Qué es esto? Esto es de Xbox también.
Un nuevo juego de estrategia.
Oh, sí. Un nuevo juego de estrategia. Egipto con nieve.
But what about the history that could have been if you were its architect? How would you reshape the world? What new stories would you tell?
Benjamin Franklin.
Sí. ¿Será alguna nueva expansión para Edge?
How would you lead them in this new world?
Creo que es algo para Edge Time.
History is filled with moments of greatness, but these will be yours.
Un nuevo mundo. ¿Ahora?
Se ve interesante.
Sí.
It's good to be
Okay, Bethesda.
celebrating what's going to be our biggest year yet. That includes a few of the projects being developed across Bethesda's 8 studios, starting with Redfall, and the world's first look at gameplay earlier in the show. Redfall is from the studio that brought us Dishonored and Prey. It's got so much of Arcane's DNA coursing through its veins. Compelling heroes, open world campaign, deep customization. Solo or with friends, we can't wait for you to play Redfall when it releases early next
Gameplay
year.
de Redfall.
If you're looking for something to sink your teeth into right now, we've got the Elder Scrolls Online, where you can adventure alongside one of the biggest and most welcoming communities in gaming. This year's ZeniMax Online
¿Le
Studios
sigue metiendo a The Elder Scrolls?
that has never been explored in any Elder Scrolls game. The Elder Scrolls Online High Isle comes to Xbox next week.
Llega a Xbox la siguiente semana.
For generations, the Breton elite have lived in safety and comfort. But now,
Este juego vende bastante time.
glow beneath the pomp and circumstance,
Vende bastante contenido.
and whispers of a sinister plot stoke the
Y
flame.
qué feo es gráficamente.
At the heart of the conflagration,
Pero te vende juegos a morir. Eso es lo que tiene.
the ascendant lord. The legacy of the Bretons must be protected.
Es una expansión.
Fallout turns 25 this year. as we celebrate the legacy of this storied franchise.
No, 76 no quiero. Ese,
Fallout
no.
76 players out of Appalachia for the first time and returns to a beloved location. Expeditions the Pit is coming this September.
Fallout 76 es un desaire para mí.
Sí, salió malo. ¿Cuántos World Premiere han anunciado hasta ahorita? Solo 2, ¿verdad?
O sea, le siguen dando contenido a Fallout 76. ¿Será que tiene gente jugándolo bastante?
Me imagino que sí. Míralo, es feo. Es feo, pero vende.
Es que es un desaire para mí este juego. Aunque parece que le han puesto otras tecnologías de iluminación.
Sí, eso sí vi.
Porque se ve diferente.
Pit.
Lamentablemente no puedo decirte que voy a jugar esto.
Yo tampoco. No me interesa. Vamos a ver.
Bethesda Game Studios has been busy, and not just with Fallout 76. After defining the role-playing genre with hits like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4, they're going even bigger with Starfield.
Starfield time.
Later in the show, my good friend Todd Howard will be here to reveal more of their next epic RPG.
¿Va a ser un RPG Starfield?
Yo escuché Starfield también.
Sí.
Pero parece que es un juego nuevo o qué.
Ah.
Ya. ¿Y por qué muestran a la Horizon 5?
¿20 millones tiene ya de jugadores?
20 millones, loco. Este juego no se queda atrás gráficamente, ¿eh?
¿No?
¡Ah! ¡Qué bacán!
Sí.
Cuidado con el copyright.
Sí. Mira eso. Oye, si se parece a una... Bueno, Hot Wheels es Hot Wheels, ¿verdad? Pero sí se parece ¿cómo se llama? A los de GTA. GTA tiene algo parecido.
Ajá. GTA ya saca todas esas cosas. Pero lo que pasa es que acá gráficamente esto se ve mucho mejor que GTA.
No, claro.
Las pistas de Hot Wheels. Qué chévere.
No, se ve buenísimo.
Es una locura esto. Lo voy a descargar de nuevo solamente para jugar esto.
El 19 sale, el 19.
Ah, exclusivo de consola. Starfield. ¿No? ¿Qué es esto?
Arkham.
All that I know from their Earth are the creatures they sent along with us.
Es Arkham.
Ah, Ark 2.
Sí.
And here on Arad, every day is a fight to survive. If anyone can tame this new world, we can.
Sí, ese
Bien
juego.
dice. Yo nunca jugué a Ark 1, loco.
No, ni sé de qué trata.
Pero parece que te va a tener como historia y toda la cosa.
2023. ¿Qué montón de juegos va a sacar Xbox en 2023?
Va a estar en Game Pass también.
Vamos, quiero ver los World Premiere ya, Xbox. Vamos.
World Premiere. Nah.
Unreal Engine. ¡Oh! ¡Time! Score se llama este juego. Es bien raro.
Ah, este es Score. Este es Score. Pero Score ya iba a salir ahorita. Este es este año que va a salir.
Mira eso. Oh, miren el pito. Ese es el pito.
What the fuck? Este juego se ve bien loco. Es que ni siquiera sé de qué trata, es muy bizarro.
Sí. Es que eso es lo que es bien bizarro. Gamepad 21 de octubre.
Buena. Este juego todo el mundo le tiene ganas, porque
Es
no sabe de qué
si
trata.
no sabe de qué trata, nadie sabe de qué va.
Sí.
When the gods first emerged from the great below, we saw them as saviors. Instead, they unleashed a pestilence
¿Qué es
on
esto?
the world.
Esto me vuelve la estrategia.
No one yet knows if you can kill a god. I, for one, intend to find out.
No.
Ah, no.
Es como un RPG, algo
Es
así.
acción. Pero es acción. Es acción RPG.
Yo hasta ahora lo veo, no sé si lo había visto antes.
No. Se ve bonito.
Sí. Se ve jugable.
Sí.
Uf.
Y veo que es como mundo abierto.
Sí. Qué feo eso.
Qué interesante, lo veo bien. Lo veo bien,
Sí, claro.
Su juego como de habilidades, o sea, parece un hack and slash.
Correcto. Esto,
Está bonito, me gusta.
¿cómo se llama? Flintlock.
Flintlock.
Cerrado por dentro.
Uf, falta un montón de tiempo.
Ujú.
Pero está bonito.
Upa.
No se ve feo. O sea, feo no es.
No, feo no es.
Es un juego bonito.
Juega día
Mejor
1
es que se abran para este tipo de cosas Xbox y no esté tan enfrascado en shooters.
Ok, World Premiere.
Uf. Crecemos los dedos. Oh. Gears. No creo que sea Gears. No. Imposible. No, ese estudio es de Minecraft.
Correcto.
Otro Minecraft.
Oye, ¿Minecraft vende?
No.
De los creadores de Minecraft, dice.
Minecraft 2.
Oye, pero Minecraft Dungeon era muy bueno.
Minecraft recargado.
Ja, oye, Time. Se ve bonito, Time.
A mí nunca me ha gustado Minecraft.
No, a mí tampoco, pero se ve bonito. Epa.
Legends we hold dearest are legends of hope, of creativity, and of bravery. And friendships that change the world forever.
Se ve que va a tener una buena historia, Time.
parece que sí, han elaborado una buena historia.
United by you.
Este juego va a vender. O sea, este juego va a vender. Y va a vender bastante. Y se mira que va a tener una muy buena historia. Minecraft Legends se va a llamar. Para el 2023. Día 1.
Bueno, para la gente que le gusta Minecraft, está perfecto.
Oye, pero se mira bonito. A mí me llamó más la atención este que el anterior.
Pero el Dungeon será mejor.
No, claro. No, me refería al juego que acaba de pasar anterior a Minecraft. Sigo esperando
No
Starfield.
Man's Sky. No, este juego es este. Ay, la continuación de los creadores de Fallout New Vegas. ¿Cómo que se llama? The Other Worlds.
No, no es The Other World.
No.
The Other World tiene mejores gráficos.
Acá sí, tienes razón.
Este es como un indie, algo así. Oye, pero, ¿te recuerdas esos juegos de Facebook que te tardabas como 3 días en hacer una casita? Está bonito, Time. Está bonito.
Lo que te imaginas, loco.
¿Sabes a qué se parece? Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing recargado,
Froggy.
2.0.
Froggy se llama. Liar.
Frontier. Este tipo de juegos a mí realmente no me llaman la atención.
A mí este sí me llamó la atención. Ese me llamó la atención. Es que se ve como esos juegos antiguos de Facebook.
¿Son furros?
Sí, sí.
El juego de los furros en primera persona. Overwatch en furros. Qué raro apartado artístico.
Sí. Se parece a ese juego. Ah, ¿cómo se llama ese juego, hombre? A Borderlands. Algo así.
Un poquito.
¿Qué te ha parecido hasta aquí?
El juego de los furros 2.0.
Gunfire Ribbon.
No sé cuál fue el original. Para que lleguen Reborn. Bueno, hasta ahora me he bajado bastante.
Ajá.
Necesito que saquen algo que...
Hello? Anyone here?
Se parece a la gente de Evil Within.
Me gusta,
Sí, sí, sí.
Me gusta
Upa.
mucho.
Since I found the first piece, there must be more.
Me gusta bastante.
Sí. A mí también.
Fotográficamente no es cualquier cosa,
No, no. Es como fantasmoso.
Está muy bonito, loco.
Se parece a Ori.
Tiene un estilo artístico,
Sí.
tiene un estilo artístico similar a Ori.
Correcto, se parece a Ori. Y Ori no es cualquier cosa.
No,
Ori es una,
claro.
Ori es una belleza.
Es una obra de arte. Es una mezcla de Ori con flashback. Es una cosa bien rara, de verdad. Me recuerda incluso a The Medium.
2023, dice.
El último caso de Benedict Fox. Te cuento que este juego yo lo quiero jugar.
Me gustó. Y mucho. A mí me gustó
Yo lo
y
quiero
mucho.
jugar.
Me gustó y
bastante.
mucho.
Yo lo quiero jugar, de hecho.
Estoy con un pie casi arriba por este juego.
Bonjour everyone.
As the
I am
fall.
excited to be here today to tell you more about Interior Night.
¿Habías escuchado de este juego?
As does
As the Fall.
It started with the desire to
Yo
create
hasta ahora.
a deep interactive experience. All levels of players can enjoy.
Están sacando unas cosas que no sé.
O sea, juegos que nunca había escuchado.
Universal tools that help us
Y tampoco que
understand
no es
the
que sean
hard
tan
racing
interesantes.
No, claro.
This game is
Oh,
an
sí,
integral
sí, ese juego yo ya lo había visto.
family,
Es como una novela gráfica.
and sacrifice.
Es como una novela gráfica.
Written like a prestige TV show with a unique motion graphic novel style.
Ok,
that
o sea, es un juego
triggers
tipo.
imagination.
¿Cómo
It
se
is
llama el
an
True
interactive
Colors?
story powered
Life
by
is,
video
Life
games
is Strange.
that gives
Correcto.
you agency over the lives of far from perfect human beings. This is a thought-provoking experience you can play with people you love, discover insights about each other, and create shared.
No ha salido Phil Spencer todavía.
As the
Yo creo que cuando ya salga Phil Spencer ahí se va a hablar.
that we hope
Oye,
will
ahora,
leave a mark with
el ritmo de la presentación no ha decaído, han hablado poco. Ha sido video.
Sí está bien, pero.
No.
No sé.
Ok.
En Game Capture. Son tomas de juego.
Ah, me imagino que es ese juego que acaban de mostrar. Sí, es este juego.
Es el mismo. Ah, ya me acordé de este juego, así lo mostraron la vez pasada.
Wasn't taking the scenic route your idea?
But for us, it felt like a trap.
There's enough cash in that safe to put the last few weeks behind us. On the ground now!
You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. We'd been in the wrong place forever.
Sometimes doing the right thing is doing the wrong thing.
Es como una novela gráfica.
None of us escaped that night.
It's okay.
Even those of us who made it out alive.
Stop! Why are you following me?
We've taken very different paths in life. But they all lead back to Turok.
Get rid of the cop.
¿Quién llamó a la policía?
Evening. Hey, Sam.
Say, you haven't seen three fellas in a blue pickup, have you?
Nope. Been here all day.
How you liking the desert dream?
Oh, can't complain.
Can I ask what brings you to Turok?
¿Cómo se va uniendo, sí? Creo que la toma de decisiones va a ser muy importante acá. ¿Es multijugador? ¿Va a haber una experiencia para multijugador? Julio 19. Ya ahorita casi.
Ok. Console launch exclusive.
¡Ah! Van a empezar a meter un montón de estos juegos así como japoneses para la industria que tienen allá.
Battle Royale.
Nakada. Estos
60 jugadores. ¿Qué es esto, loco? Be less standing.
Es un Battle Royale. Se ve interesante, no se ve espectacular, se ve interesante.
Pero ya es un juego viejo para eso.
Sí, creo que sí. Y que solo estaba en el mercado japonés. 23 en Game Pass.
Te cuento que esto está feo,
Naraka se llama. Blackpoint.
Se ve bonito, loco.
Sí, sí, sí. Están promocionando bastante Game Pass. World Premiere.
World Premiere, por favor, World Premiere.
Contraband.
¿Qué es?
¿Indiana Jones? No, no. Va a sacar stand.
A ver, te voy a ser sincero, ¿tú quieres ver esto?
No.
Yo tampoco.
Oye, pero esto los japoneses lo quieren ver.
Pues está bonito todo el diseño artístico, pero no me interesan este tipo de juegos. Ahora hay gente a la que sí.
Claro, hay gente que le gusta esta vaina.
¿De Obsidian?
Mira cómo le mete fuego a la gente. Penitencia se llama. No tienen ni noviembre 22.
No está feo, pero no es lo que yo estoy esperando.
No, yo tampoco. Tenía altas las expectativas, pero bueno.
O sea, se me está bajando todo ya,
Las tortugas ninja.
Esto es ochentero,
Special breaking report. More local teenagers have gone missing. This could be linked to the disturbing trend of missing teenagers from our...
Oh, es el juego de los...
Full ochentero. Ah, este es el de los insectos.
Correcto.
Please contact the police department.
Que es una nueva parte, una expansión.
Te cuento que es muy buen juego, Muy buen juego este. Yo jugué el primero y me gustó bastante. No sé si es una segunda parte o un DLC.
Unfortunately, my memory chip is a little rusty. But with a little maintenance, we can unravel why you are here. Before someone or something terminates your tiny existence.
Tienen que pelear como con roboxitos ahora.
Ah, es que estaba en Game Preview recién. O sea, esta es la versión definitiva del juego.
La historia completa.
Ya esta es la versión completa del juego, Keto.
Gracias por llegar a @me pica el derecho.
Growder. 10 millones de jugadores tiene este juego.
Ya está completo. Por favor. Enseñen algo bueno.
Ya, había empezado bien,
Helios. They search for someone who does not exist. The shadow. The forgotten child of a scattered race. Lost until now. Now they have awakened the Erebon. Now they have awakened me. their hope. I am their reckoning.
Se ve interesante. No jugable, se ve interesante.
They will not drag me into their
Son nuevas franquicias, ¿sí? Son nuevos juegos.
because their light is a lie.
Sí, no está fea, pero
Sí.
sigo sin tener lo que quiero.
Ujú. Ok.
Bueno, aquí estamos cambiando en algo,
Sí, porque ya se puso medio extraña la cosa.
Sí.
I speak now to those who heed a darker call.
¿Qué es esto?
Those bold enough to cross the line of sin for deeper knowledge, who follow an unquenchable yearning, born of blood and bone.
¿Qué es esto?
To unlock the forbidden secrets and foulest black rituals, calling forth life from death. To truly embrace this power, you must take it into the world. You will be shunned, scorned, marked as a living sacrifice to this profane knowledge.
¿Qué carajo estoy viendo?
You will be a
No
priest
sé.
of Rathma, a necromancer. And you will not confront the darkness alone. We are the speakers of the dead, and the dead have no mercy.
¿Qué pedo? Diablo.
Pero que... ¡Ay, Diablo 4, loco!
Tai.
O sea, la cinemática estuvo muy buena,
¿No te parece esto curioso?
No una nueva clase, los necromantes. ¿De qué
I'm
sentido?
very excited to announce our fifth and final class.
Rob
the
Ferguson.
Necromancer, a commander of the undead who joins the other iconic classes around
Le
the campfire
tiene
in
que
Diablo
faltar
4.
decir día
These
1 en
include
Game
the mighty
Pass, si no, no
barbarian,
vale.
the elemental sorceress, the crafty rogue, and the powerful druid. And you'll want them because the demon Lilith, the daughter of hatred, has returned and spreading corruption and evil as she fights to reclaim our dark gothic world as her own. And it's up to you to stop her. Now, Diablo 4 is the culmination of the 25-year history of the franchise, building on top of the best of what's come before with some, unique twists all its own.
Yo quiero la chamarra y la camisa que tiene ese señor.
Está muy buena, está muy
I might
buena.
add some
Sí.
Xbox Series X gameplay. Well, hearing from a few of the many people behind
Chaqueta, pero si tú vas con esa
Oye,
chamarra
oye.
en tu culto te botan de un patazo.
Oye, Tai, pero están hablando mucho de Blizzard.
Series X, Series X, Series X.
Generation of action RPG,
Series X.
melding monster slaying and
Uy.
loot collecting with a fully realized open world.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's gory and unnerving. It's creepy.
Se ve bonito,
Diablo 4 is all
Tú dices que están hablando mucho de Blizzard.
Sí, claro.
Yo te digo, Blizzard ya es de Microsoft.
Diablo game and just expands them.
Call of Duty, yo quiero ver Call of Duty.
People really love and appreciate in modern
¿Qué
games.
pasó, Carlitos Toboy? Ese Free Fire de Xbox para cuándo? Te cuento que antes anunciaron Valorant para Xbox.
Create in Diablo 4.
A
it's important to include
Oh, está
robust
bonito,
character
loco.
Sí, sí, sí.
because then I can play the fantasy that I want to play.
Valorant para Xbox ya anunciaron hoy.
Switch around your playstyle as well.
Everything feels very powerful and fun.
¿Ya salió Diablo 4 o no ha salido todavía?
Diablo 4. Es mundo abierto, mira.
¿Pero ya salió o no ha salido?
No ha salido.
We've got almost 150 dungeons in the game.
Creo que no.
There's all kinds
No
of
estoy seguro.
surprises as you're exploring.
Strongholds are an enemy
No, pues mi
territory that you
Free
need to
God.
reclaim.
Sí, Free Fire es
You might have a space that begins as a hostile area.
para las raticas.
Free Fire es la leche.
Evil in this place has been cleansed.
It now becomes a friendly town.
Sometimes it's a new town, sometimes it's a new dungeon. There's a whole bunch of rewards that you get, and you have a real impact on the world as a result.
No, you can't leave us.
¿Esperabas ver algo de Blizzard en esta vaina?
O sea, sí me está sorprendiendo que estén sacando cosas de Blizzard. ¿Eh?
¿Será que es una buena señal por donde va la...
Or get a group together and just wail on these like
Yo quiero ver
giant
algo de
world
Activision,
bosses.
no solo de Blizzard. Tú sabes a lo que me refiero.
Con eso cerraría, con eso no importa lo lento que se puso por un rato la
Dice,
conferencia.
Modern Warfare 2, día 1 en Game Pass. Así mal. Murió PlayStation.
It's so easy to
Comparte
create
tu mundo,
community.
mírate ahí.
It makes Diablo more of a social experience.
We've got fully enabled crossplay.
Está bonito, loco. Yo sí lo voy a probar, eh.
Va a tener crossplay, dice.
You're going to be able to group up.
Or you could play couch co-op. Two people on a couch can sit there and have a great experience.
We've created specific zones where
Diablo.
players can engage in PvP.
If you go there, you can start swinging away at people. But you're also opening yourself up to being swung at.
If you're like really, really good, the game actually marks you as like a champion on the map.
Está increíble, loco.
Sí, eso estoy viendo. Nunca he jugado un Diablo, pero...
No, pero se ve muy bueno. Eh.
Sí, claro.
The last story mission is really the beginning of a whole different part of the journey.
Now you're set up for the end game, and that end game is rich with things to do that allow you to get more and more powerful.
Whether it's new items or new dungeons or new areas. Every single time you come back to play Diablo 4, there's going to be new stuff for you to experience.
And it's something that we're going to support for years to come.
I'm really excited for folks to get their hands on
Veo
Diablo 4.
bastante mundo, bastante mapa.
Si el ambiente está todo bien, eh.
Sí.
Local events.
Couch co-op,
Endgame.
PvP, it almost doesn't end.
Me gusta, loco.
And we are so close.
Esos malditos osos en Elden Ring.
Esos son inmortales, loco.
Sí. 2023 sale este juego, ¿tá?
Si no salía, entonces está ahí. Está bonito, te cuento, me gusta bastante.
Qué lindo sería Game Pass.
Pero te lo sigo diciendo, no es lo que yo estoy esperando todavía.
Sea of
No,
Thieves.
otra vez, ya no quiero saber nada de Sea of Thieves. Todos los años hay Sea of Thieves.
No sé, tiene como 60 millones de jugadores esta vaina.
Te cuento que este juego sí que le ha dado dinero a Microsoft. ¿Eh?
Oh, sí.
Bueno, que hasta ahora estoy un poco decepcionado de este evento.
Sí, yo llevo 20 minutos en que sí he sentido bastante decepción.
¿Cuál fue el último anuncio que nos dio emoción?
Gracias por llegar a @varogamer.
El último anuncio que nos dio emoción fue el del juego este. Ah, ¿cómo se llama, hombre? De Monty y Rick.
No, a Plague Tale también estuvo
Ah,
bueno.
sí, a Plague Tale. A Plague Tale.
Y Forza también estuvo bueno verlo.
No, miento. Forza fue el último. Hace 20 minutos pasó Forza.
Pero de ahí...
Sí, de ahí no...
me estoy aburriendo de hecho, te cuento.
Sí, yo también. Gracias.
Gracias a la gente que nos está viendo, que nos está ocultando todas las porquerías que hemos estado hablando. Seguimos esperando algo que no va a llegar. Esperamos el anuncio de Call of Duty, esperamos el Blade 2. Estamos esperando algo de Starfield porque no han mostrado un carajo.
Hideo Kojima.
Ya, juego de Hideo Kojima. Hideo. ¿Qué es esto, loco? Pokémon de Microsoft.
Yo creo que están metiendo toda la estupidez. Pero Tai, esto a nosotros no nos gusta y hay gente que le gusta esta vaina.
No sé, loco, o sea... Es que esto le puede gustar más o menos a alguien. Mi problema es que esto no es lo que la gente estaba esperando de este evento, loco.
¿Sí?
Saca un evento aparte de indies, yo qué sé, ¿no? Me aburro, sinceramente,
Sí,
no
yo
puedo
también.
evitarlo, ¿verdad?
Yo también. Estoy aburrido.
Ah, pero no se ve feo, ¿eh?
No.
O sea, no es un mal juego, el problema es que no es el evento para mostrarlo.
Claro.
Muéstramelo en un evento de indies, ya, está bien. Correcto. Pero no me lo muestres aquí.
Ya me tienes hasta la verga con eso de...
¿Qué es esto? Ah, los creadores de Limbo.
¿No ves?
Mira, es que yo no digo que estos juegos no sean buenos. Pero son indies. ¿Cómo rellenas tú este evento de puros indies? ¿Cuánto iba a durar este evento?
2 horas. Le quedan menos de 1 hora.
2 horas. Es muchísimo. Yo estoy un poco aburrido, loco. No sé tú realmente.
No, sí. Ya ahorita, ya llevo media hora aburrido. Y la señora que está ahí, ha de estar aburridísima.
Por supuesto que sí. Estoy cansado.
Si no tienes nada que mostrar, no hagas evento. O sea, la gente que le gusta este tipo de juegos ha de estar encantada.
Cocoon. Oye, Cocoon me suena, ¿eh? Es una serie.
No. Viene de Goku.
Trátala de jugar Premier. No sé. Ghost of Tsushima para Xbox.
Ok, Time, mira esta. Ok, Team Ninja hace buenos juegos. Pilas con este.
¿Quién es?
Team Ninja.
Ah, esto es de Team Ninja.
Sí. Este es para el público japonés. Este sí me llama la atención para jugarlo.
¿Qué quiero ver el gameplay.
Wulong. La caída del destino.
Me hubiera gustado ver el gameplay, pero bueno, sí, se ve interesante.
Sí, se ve interesante. Gamepad día 1.
Bueno.
Yo creo que todo va a empezar, lo bueno va a empezar, ahorita va a empezar lo bueno. Sí, es para Japón estos juegos.
Está gordito, Phil.
Sí.
Se ha engordado.
Yo creo que ahorita va a empezar lo bueno.
Se ha engordado bastante el tío Phil.
Sí.
Tío, donde usted me dice que el evento se acabó aquí, no me llame, por favor, yo lo voy a llamar.
Sí.
I'm excited to announce the return
El
of one of
regreso
the most highly requested and
de
beloved
una
franchises
de las franquicias más esperadas.
at Atlas.
¿Ya? Atlus. ¿Persona? No creo. No, imposible. ¿Qué franquicia es esta, loco?
No sé.
Pero es Atlus. Que Atlus saque un juego. Es Persona. Que Atlus saque juego en Xbox. Que estos son los juegos de Persona. En Xbox. Esto es una buena noticia,
Espérate, es que si es Persona no me lo estoy creyendo.
No, son todos los juegos de Persona. No había salido ninguno en Xbox. Es primera vez. Mira, Persona 4. Persona 5.
Oye, Tan, esto es buena noticia. Esto es buena noticia.
Es una muy buena noticia.
Sí.
Quiere decir que Atlus salió con Xbox. Y van a salir en Game Pass. No. Esto está rotísimo, loco. Persona 5 Royal. Este juego yo tengo unas ganas.
Si aparece.
Si dice que sale en Game Pass, la rompe, loco.
¡Ah! ¡Ahí está! ¡Ahí está! Ya estuvo. Me siento servido. ¿Tan? Me siento.
21 de octubre.
Me siento servido. Ahí está, me siento servido.
No, loco.
Yo me siento servido. Me siento.
Persona exclusivo de Sony.
Hasta se me engrifó todo.
Personas exclusivo de Sony. Qué golpe, loco.
Xbox Game Studios and one of the greatest creative minds and innovators in our industry. Someone that I have admired for many years. Today, I'm pleased to share we will be working together to create a brand new experience like we've never seen before.
こんにちは、小島秀夫です。ずっと作りたかったゲームがあります。それは誰も体験したことも見たこともない全く新しいものです。
Señor Kojima, usted es perverso, de verdad. ¿Cómo se va a liar con Xbox, carajo? Ha traicionado el corazón de este Sony.
Dice que está utilizando todo el poder de Xbox para crear el juego.
Ya la gente va a comenzar a dañar las PlayStation de edición de Stranding. Con Xbox Game Studios. O sea, dice que está trabajando solamente y que le espera dar noticias en el futuro. No dijo nada más.
Es que se acaban de aliar. Pero ya con eso, Time.
Mira, ve. No, ya, claro, el juego es real, el juego de terror que están haciendo. Ya no hay nada más, loco.
¿Calixto Protocol en Game Pass?
¿Dónde dice?
No.
Games from these creators will be coming to Game Pass every single month, including Naraka Blade Point,
Sí, ya está terminando.
A Plague Tale Requiem,
O sea, si no me muestras algo más, Tito
Persona
Phil.
5 Royale, Somerville.
O sea, yo creo que la mejor noticia de todo el evento es lo de Persona, loco. Porque me sorprendió bastante.
The launches of some of the most anticipated titles from the teams at Xbox.
No, pero son 2 horas de evento.
Redfall, Minecraft Legends, Starfield, Forza Motorsport, and more.
No enseñaron nada de Starfield,
This has been
loco.
an incredible year as we achieved record growth across console and Game Pass, with millions of people playing our games every single day. And we have you to thank for that. Whether that's new players joining us through Xbox Cloud Gaming or our longest fans playing on Xbox and PC, we could not have done this without you. A year ago, we welcomed the talented studios at Bethesda Softworks to Xbox. Their teams have been hard at work, bringing their franchises to Game Pass, shipping updates to their games, and building new experiences for you to enjoy. We know that everyone has been eager to see Starfield. Our show today has highlighted gameplay, so it's only fitting that we end it with an extended
Van a mostrar
first
gameplay de
look
Starfield.
at one of the most
Con eso van a
anticipated
terminar el
games
evento.
in Xbox history. This is Starfield.
Oh,
Con eso
oh,
termina el
shh.
evento.
Ahorita, espera. Esto es lo que yo quería ver. Esto es lo que yo quería ver. Maldito
Vamos a subir el
infierno.
volumen.
It's hard to express
Okay.
how excited all of us at the
Van a hablar de Starfield Time.
here with you today.
That's
We're
Howard.
so grateful you're spending the time, and we know you've waited a long time to finally see.
Esa chaqueta que carga ese tipo está
It's
preciosa,
Oh,
loco.
sí.
our most
Todas las
ambitious
que estos
game
manes
ever.
usan son
Like
una
our
belleza.
previous games, it's
Sí,
an epic
loco.
role-playing game where you get to be who you want and go where you want. But this time, you'll be exploring space. So let's jump right in. This is early in the game as you arrive on the mysterious moon of Crete.
Ok. Oh, Time, mira ese mundo. Esto es gameplay time. Time, esto es gameplay time.
2330.
¿Luna de qué?
Ancelón. De Ancelón.
Time, esto es gameplay. ¡Oh, Time!
Esto es full gameplay,
Time, esto es gameplay time, maldito.
Es full gameplay.
Time, mira cómo carajo se ve esto, man.
According to the scanners, the abandoned research facility is in
Oh.
this direction.
Esto a mí me huele que es un juego demasiado inmenso, loco.
¿Sí ves ese sol? ¡Oh! Time.
parece que se puede cambiar entre tercera y primera persona, ¿no?
Sí, creo que eso es lo que está mostrando. Creo que somos como recolectores de algo, Tan.
Se parece en ese aspecto a No Man's Sky bastante, ¿eh?
Sí. Mira, Time.
It would appear that pirates of the Crimson Fleet are using the facility.
Hay piratas en las instalaciones.
Sí.
Esto es un simulador de astronautas, loco.
Háblame.
Este juego no corre más de 60 FPS por lo gráfico que está, ¿eh?
Háblame, dime de los gráficos. Háblame de esos gráficos que estás viendo.
No, que te digo que los gráficos están tan altos que no corren a más de 60.
Oh, ¿sí viste que los enemigos tienen una barra de vida también?
Ajá.
Mira.
Tiene como tintes RPG el juego. Mira la experiencia y todo. Está bacán. Como un puzzle. Está chévere.
Ya fuera. Otra nave, ¿oh?
Bacán.
Oh, es que puede volar, ¿verdad?
Sí, claro, es un traje de espacio, pues.
After some initial encounters, you're invited to join Constellation, who, in the future the game is set in, are the last group of space explorers. To meet them, you'll head to the capital city of New Atlantis.
¿Qué tanto van a mostrar de este juego? Oh, mira. Creo que a los árboles les hace falta un poco más de algo.
Es que no sé cómo explicarte, pero gráficamente este juego es extraño, loco. No es tan realista. Tiene un motor gráfico como tipo Bioshock, una cosa así. ¿No te das cuenta?
Sí.
No por eso te digo que esté mal, o sea, está espectacular. Pero no es un motor gráfico para que tú veas que sea como algo parecido a real, ¿me entiendes? Está enfocado como en otras cosas. O sea, para mí me parece espectacular, te cuento. Se nota como un juego inmenso, un juego grandioso.
O sea, las personas cuando las tienes de cerca, ahí sí notas el poder gráfico que tiene. Lo van a pulir más. De eso estoy seguro.
Esto es un puto mundo, un universo abierto. No es mundo abierto, es un universo abierto.
Of course, the settled systems is full of groups with other priorities.
The fleet doesn't follow the rules. Agree to work for UCC Step. Together, we take down these.
Yo creo que está bien que lo hayan retrasado.
Sí, yo también. Veo que hay
tiene que pulirlo. Este juego es muy grande. Es muy grande.
Sí,
este juego.
veo que hay algunas cosas que necesitan un poquito de.
Es muy grande este juego.
O sea, pero jugable yo lo veo muy bueno. El modo jugable.
No, sí, o sea, es realmente una historia que te puede llevar horas pasarlo, ¿eh?
Sí.
Most Dusties don't even make it this far.
Because whatever lies at the end of this road will change humanity forever.
O sea, lo que veo, o sea, lo que veo en el mundo exterior es un potente gráfico. Bastante. Lo primero que
A
vimos
mí
del
sí me-
juego.
a-
Ahora,
a
cuando
mí
ya...
se me parece bastante. A mí me hace acordar a Fallout, te cuento.
Claro, claro, claro. La ciudad, donde enfocaron la ciudad.
Ajá.
Mira,
Mira,
mira.
oh, mira. Eso que te digo, gráficamente no está hecho el juego para que tú digas en la textura de los personajes, pero, o sea, el juego tiene muchas cosas que llaman la atención.
You'll pick a background that gives you 3 starting skills.
Says here you spent some time as a diplomat. Having a way with words might prove useful.
There are optional traits, and these come with unique advantages and
Puedes hacer que tu personaje sea introvertido, loco.
But it's not just in how you can look, but in how your character plays and develops. The skill system combines the best from our previous
Te digo, este
games.
juego ha costado mucho
And you
hacerlo,
can
eh.
unlock new skills as you level up, and then you rank those skills up by using them and completing challenges. And there's deep
mira eso, Tiny.
from running research projects with resources you
Hay
find
crafteo, mira, para hacer armas y demás cosas.
Mira las armas. Ahí donde te, aquí donde te digo yo que el mundo gráficamente se ve bueno.
Oye, pero es que esto no es un mundo abierto, es un universo abierto. ¿Sí ves lo que cuesta hacer una cosa de esta?
Sí, sí. ¿Qué te pasa,
Yo creo que
internet?
este juego debe pesar unos 250 gigas mínimo.
No digas eso, hermano.
Pero en los mapas, ¿qué? Te date cuenta, tiene planetas, no tiene mapa. No un GTA con una ciudad, son planetas. ¿Me entiendes?
Sí.
Esto cuesta muchísimo hacer. Por eso te digo, está bien que se haya retrasado para que lo pulan.
Sí, claro. O sea, viéndolo con lo que estoy viendo, vale la pena esperarlo.
Claro, que lo retrasen, nada más que no vaya a ser un cyberpunk.
Vas a modificar tu nave como tú quieras.
Esto para los amantes de... O sea, yo soy bastante amante de la astronomía y toda la cosa. Esto es espectacular, ¿eh?
Sí. No, yo con Persona, con Redfall y con este, me siento servido. Buen evento, voy a decir.
Te cuento que lo de Persona me impactó bastante, ¿eh? ¿Será que Microsoft quiere comprar a Atlus y hace galo?
Universo. Ya estás en el universo, Time. Aquí no esperes nada gráfico. O sea, aquí no esperes ver algo gráfico así como que wow, porque estás en el maldito universo.
No es mundo abierto, es universo abierto. Puedes pelear con las naves, loco. Mira.
¡Saturno!
Se parece a Saturno. Pero esa pelea de naves estaba bacanísima. Muy real, ¿eh?
Sí, sí, sí.
Quiero ver cómo aterriza una nave.
Le pasó cerca.
Este juego va a romper a las series S.
No. ¿Te volviste a montar o sigues abajo? Mira, Time. Mira esa estación espacial. Va a aterrizar, ojo. ¡Oh!
Quiero ver cómo aterriza.
¿Te montaste o seguís abajo? Yo me monté.
No, mira. Quiero ver cómo aterriza. ¿Por qué no muestran una...
Es impresionante.
Thanks again for being with us today, and thanks for all the support you've given us over the decades, especially on this game. It's been an incredible journey for us making it, but we know
Ojalá que den fecha exacta.
that's really only the beginning, for it's when all of you play it that the real journey begins. And you may be wondering, just how big is this game? So we thought we'd take one last moment and show you.
Quiero mostrarte algo más.
Let's take a look at one
¿La
of our
Tierra?
planets,
No,
Gemini.
no es la Tierra.
No sé
You can
nada.
land into Atlantis, but you can also land and explore anywhere on the planet.
Puedes explorar cualquier parte del planeta, te lo dije.
All the planets in the system.
Ah, ese va a ser el sistema que vas a explorar,
Barren
mira.
but resource-heavy ice balls to Goldilocks planets with life. And not just this system, but over 100 systems. Over 1,000 planets,
Mira.
all open for you to
Mira, está en ese mundo abierto.
to see what you find.
Loco, ¿viste cuántos lugares hay que...?
Dice, si no te gusta este sistema, tienes todos los sistemas por No, ¿qué es esta mierda?
Sí.
Y aún tú no crees que va a pesar 250 gigas. 500 gigas pesa.
Lo voy a comprar.
Parece medio tera de disco duro, Keto,
Lo voy a comprar para mi Nintendo Switch.
Va a explotar el Nintendo Switch. Keto, medio tera va a pesar este juego. Te lo digo. Va a pesar muchísimo. Keto es un universo abierto.
O sea que si no te gusta este sistema solar, acá hay otros. Te mostramos otros. Starfield.
Es un universo abierto. Estos manes están creando un género.
Sí.
Crearon un género ya.
Sí, claro.
Universe, Open Universe, en vez de Open World. No, loco, están enfermos.
Algún
Esto
día
no
del
es
2000.
real. Esto no es real,
No, yo puedo decir que me acabo de montar con ver esto de Starfield. Starfield es impresionante.
Pero este juego no es real, loco.
¿Sigue la conferencia?
Ese juego no es real, loco. Ya tiene que haber terminado.
Ya hubieran quitado al chavo de al lado. Sí, ya está terminando.
Sí están haciendo nada más. Bueno, voy a silenciar. Para hacer nomás la... Que te deja la droga. No, estos están enfermos, loco.
Dice Daniel Benítez. Dice Daniel Benítez, es un juego infinito.
Es un juego infinito, sí, realmente. Mira, te lo digo desde ya. Redfall me gustó.
Me gustó también. Muchísimo.
Me gustó ver Forza, aunque Forza no es un juego por lo que yo me compraría una consola ni nada de eso. Pero me gustó verlo.
Ok, estamos hasta ahí bien.
Me sorprendió bastante. Bueno, me gustó ver juegos como A Plague Tale, lo de Diablo. Me sorprendió también el hecho de que igual Xbox está haciendo encuentros con empresas como Riot para traer los juegos de Valorant y demás cosas a las plataformas, así sea por Cloud Gaming, está bien. Y también me sorprendió el hecho de que haya hecho trato con Atlus y que Persona vaya a salir por fin en consolas de Xbox.
No.
Para los que no saben, Persona es un juego que siempre fue exclusivo de PlayStation.
No va a salir solo en consolas. Va a salir en Game Pass. Va a salir en Game Pass.
Va a salir en Game Pass y no sé si ahora ni cuándo, pero que está haciendo esa sociedad con Atlus que pertenece a Sega de un juego que hasta hace poco era totalmente exclusivo de PlayStation. Es algo muy grande, no es cualquier cosa. Y va a sacar los juegos de antes, o sea, todos los que no han salido para Xbox nunca los van a sacar todos. Entonces, de ahí lo que mostraron ahorita con Starfield no tiene nombre. Creo que estos tipos han inventado un nuevo género porque todo es open world, mundo abierto. Todos hicieron el universo abierto, Open Universe. Si no te gusta un sistema solar o un planeta, te largas a otro. O sea, esto es de locos. Así es simple, es de locos. Y aquí te das cuenta.
Oye.
Ha demorado tanto su desarrollo. Te das cuenta.
Escucha. Dicen los de Level Up que el Forza se ve basura. El Forza se ve basura.
No están locos esos tipos que van a saber de gráficos.
Dice que prefieren el otro, el Gran Turismo.
Medio tera me parece poco si esa huevada de Warzone pesa 125. Para mí el Starfield va a pesar un medio tera. Para mí va a pesar hartísimo Starfield. No tienes ni idea de cuánto ese juego te lleva de contenido. Ahora yo te digo una cosa.
Oye, espera.
Yo sí puedo ser objetivo.
Espera que te interrumpa.
Prácticamente tengo todos los ecosistemas.
Espera que te interrumpa. ¿Sabes qué dicen estos? Que Starfield es una basura. Dice que no sirve y que lo de Persona es una basura. Que van a tener un juego que ya salió en otras plataformas. Eso están hablando.
No, o sea, te digo una cosa.
Están ardidos, güey. Están ardidos.
Hay gente que le gusta Persona y nunca se ha comprado un PlayStation. Entonces van a poder jugarlo. Es como lo que pasa con el que el Spider-Man de PlayStation vaya a salir en PC. Para mí me parece impresionante. Entonces más gente lo va a jugar. Entonces te lo digo yo, o sea, yo tengo todas las plataformas, tengo todos los ecosistemas y me parece increíble, de verdad, que estas cosas pasen, que Spider-Man esté en PC, me parece increíble que Persona esté en Xbox ahora. A mí me parece increíble. Los únicos que ganamos con todas esas cosas que hacen las empresas y de igual ceden ante las presiones de los usuarios somos nosotros, los videojugadores.
Claro.
Porque al final vamos a tener más opciones en donde jugar más cosas, que hay juegos que son hermosos. El Spider-Man es un juego hermoso. Entonces, pero te sigo insistiendo, el Starfield es el claro ejemplo de la nueva generación de consolas. Ese juego es una cosa impresionante.
O sea, y lo impresionante es que el tipo dijo, si no te gusta este universo, vete al carajo, vete para otro.
Yo cuando vi el sistema solar, yo dije, bueno, ya, está bien, el sistema solar, ¿no? Cuando abrieron el mapa.
yo pensé que solo eran esos mundos.
Era un universo y que esta mierda, loco.
Pero ni Star Wars.
También algo que no mencioné y que también me llama la atención bastante es que estén haciendo alianzas con Kojima Production y estén haciendo un juego.
Exclusivo.
De hecho, que ya se filtró que es el juego de terror con Hideo Kojima. Me parece también fabuloso, fabuloso. Se los digo, no se dejen de llevar por la gente que solamente dicen Xbox es basura, PlayStation es basura, Nintendo es basura.
No.
Todos los ecosistemas, todas las plataformas son grandiosas y cada uno tiene lo suyo. Por lo único que usted debería elegir una plataforma o un ecosistema u otro solamente es por los juegos. Si a usted les gusta solamente los juegos de PlayStation, solamente los juegos de Xbox, solamente los juegos de Nintendo o los de PC, elija una plataforma y quédese con eso. Pero si tiene la oportunidad de probarlos todos, pruébelos, porque todos los juegos son grandiosos y todos los ecosistemas son preciosos.
Claro que sí.
Es todo lo que puedo agregar. Agradezco a toda la gente que nos ha estado viendo en todas las plataformas que hemos estado haciendo restream de este evento de Showcase de Xbox. Me ha encantado, le he pasado muy bien, a pesar de que ha habido unos momentos medio aburriditos. Igual sí han valido la pena los anuncios que han hecho. No hemos quedado sin sabores en no ver juegos como Hellblade 2, pero por algo de ser la estrategia de marketing es así. Entonces me parece que este año está dicho todo, han dicho lo que van a sacar. Me parece que el año 2023 va a ser un gran año en cuanto a juegos se refiere en todas las plataformas y bueno, a esperarlo. A esperar porque se ve muy bueno, el futuro es prometedor para los videojuegos y para los videojugadores como nosotros.
Dice Carlos, a ver quién fue el que habló huevada, dice.
No sé si tú tengas algo que añadir en cuanto a conclusiones, porque...
Yo lo que rápido, hubo media hora en que me estaba muy aburrido. Media hora en que me aburrí. Hasta que empezó a volver a agarrar ritmo. Sí esperaba Hellblade, esperaba a WoW, lo esperaba esas cosas. Lo de Persona 5 sí me sorprendió. Bueno, lo de Persona en todos me sorprendió. Y siento que va a ser más doloroso porque va a salir día 1 en Game Pass. Para los ecosistemas. Ahora, Starfield...
Mentira, pero los enfermos en cuanto a PlayStation se enferman por eso.
Sí, claro.
¿No? Te cuento que el otro día sacó un video un tipo que una PlayStation 4 Pro edición Spider-Man.
¿Y la cortó?
La dañó.
Sí,
la cortó porque anunciaron Spider-Man para PC. O sea, ¿qué estupidez, loco? Yo no puedo estar más feliz porque Spider-Man salga en PC.
¿Así?
Y yo tengo un PlayStation, O sea, estoy muy feliz.
Yo también. O sea, yo estoy muy feliz. Y yo tengo PlayStation. Yo tengo Play, Xbox, Switch, PC de alta gama, etcétera. Yo me siento muy contento por Redfall. Tiene buen ritmo. Le falta una pulida. Le falta que le pasen el trapo. Starfield la rompió. Para mí Starfield la rompió. La rompió. Y los de Level Up estaban diciendo que era una basura. Ahí lo puse. La gente lo escuchó. Ellos van por sus propios intereses. Ellos corren bajo sus propios intereses. Ya veo el speedrun que van a hacer. Pero en conclusión, casi me duermo. Pero al final me desperté y quedé...
Hubieron 15 minutos bien aburridos.
Bien aburridos,
un intermedio bien aburrido, no me gustó para nada, pero... es que te lo digo, o sea, el evento pudo haber sido más corto y tener mejor ritmo.
Correcto.
Entonces, creo que el anuncio de tantos indies que no son malos, se vean muy bonitos ciertos indies, creo que debería estar para un evento aparte, o sea, no es necesario meterlo.
Pero el indie que más me sorprendió, perdón y que te interrumpa, fue el indie del tipo que se parece a Ori.
Sí, espectacular,
Sí,
Su juego espectacular.
Ya había a Homero volando por la ciudad, dice Carlos.
Bueno, y también me sorprendió también que Silksong, la nueva aventura de Hollow Knight, ya anunciaron que va a salir en Game Pass día 1, también eso es una buena noticia.
Para los jugadores y amantes de la compañía Río, pues, y no tienen PC pero tienen Xbox, de a poco le
van a poder jugar los juegos de Riot por Cloud, creo.
Primero por Cloud. Sí, primero por Cloud y después ahí.
Creo que lo van a hacer llegar para las consolas. Yo creo que Valorant va a terminar llegando para consolas.
Correcto.
Una cosa que me sorprendió también bastante es que Overwatch va a ser free to play.
Sí. Y anunciaron.
De hecho, yo voy a descargar y jugar a Overwatch 2.
Anunciaron muchas cosas, algunas cosas interesantes de Blizzard. Eso quiere decir que la compra de Xbox con esa gente va bien.
O sea, claro, creo que no se animaron a poner más juegos de Blizzard o anunciar los juegos de Blizzard para Game Pass porque creo que todavía falta efectivizar. Hay unas cláusulas ahí legales que ocupan que pase cierto tiempo. Y de hecho tampoco anunciaron nada de Call of Duty por eso, porque uno de los acuerdos de las cláusulas es que hasta tantos años Xbox no puede sacar ningún Call of Duty en Game Pass. Así que ojito con eso. Ahora, hay una cosa que yo me hubiera gustado comentar contigo, pero yo no sé si por la premura del tiempo lo podamos hacer, pero allá en esta semana que viene estamos a la vuelta del nuevo servicio que es similar al Game Pass de Sony. Ya va a estar disponible para nuestro país. El PlayStation Essential, que se llama. Entonces, yo te voy a decir, yo lo voy a contratar por un mes porque lo quiero probar. Porque me parece que hay juegos interesantes y si lo veo como algo similar al Game Pass en PlayStation. Entonces, pero hay que ver cómo va a ser la dinámica, si va a ser igual que Xbox, de ir agregando juegos que valgan la pena.
Cada 15 días Xbox agrega un juego.
Entonces, vamos a ver qué tal lo hace Sony, porque te cuento una cosa, que el sistema no se ve mal. Ojo, no se ve mal. Está un poquito caro, pero hay una membresía ahí que es similar a la del Ultimate, que creo que es la que vale la pena. La otra no debería comprar la gente. O sea, si usted va a pagar $5 más porque le den juegos retro, no vale la pena.
No, claro.
No, pero en cambio, la membresía que vale como $10 al mes, que es la que creo que yo vale la pena, va a incluir juegos como Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs, Days Gone y un poco de cosas más, o sea, Death Stranding, Director Cut, o sea, unos juegos interesantes. O sea, por ese precio no me parece mal, porque consideremos que los juegos de PlayStation valen $70, entonces va a salir mucho más barato. Y acuérdate, o sea, tú pasas un juego de aventura, no de campaña de PlayStation, y tú ya no lo juegas, porque, bueno, es una aventura que muere ahí, ¿no? Entonces va a valer la pena mucho el servicio. Yo lo voy a estar probando esta semana, si Dios no permite otra cosa. Y si nos vemos para un próximo podcast o comentario o cualquier video, estaremos comentando sobre eso y te estaré dando mis impresiones.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Bueno, eso es todo lo que quería comentar. Yo
muchas
les
gracias
a todos, a sus órdenes siempre. Hemos estado aquí con Keto en sus páginas. A todos los seguidores de Keto, un abrazo. Los quiero mucho también. El tío Time he vuelto después de tanto tiempo a estar haciendo estos videos. Y agradezco a la gente que ha estado apoyando y ha estado ahí perennemente a nuestra transmisión.
Les mando un abrazo a todos. Nos despedimos por hoy. Estén pendientes. Un abrazo grande. Gracias por haber estado con nosotros.
Cuídense todos y no se olviden. Jueguen todo. No se mermen de ningún juego y de ningún ecosistema por las porquerías que dicen las páginas que realmente están vendidas por otras compañías. Así que los quiero mucho. Yo me despido.
Bye bye.
Keto, un fuerte abrazo.
Igual.
Cuídate mucho.